States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda is Spotlight on the 2014 Western Regional Music Festival Middle Schools. Ms. Keys.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Spotlight section of our agenda for Tuesday, March 18th, 2014. Tonight, we will be spotlighting middle school students at the Western Region Musical Festival. It is with great pleasure that the Board of Education today recognizes our middle school students who auditioned for the 2014 Western Region Music Festival. This highly competitive event is organized annually by the Connecticut Music Educators Association. Western Regionals showcased accomplished student performers from throughout the state. Middle school music teachers select top band, orchestra, and chorus members from each school to represent Norwalk in this competition. To audition, students must learn the selected music, dedicate time to practicing, and then perform in front of a panel of judges. No easy feat for any of these students. As a result, today we recognize all of the middle school students who invested their time and effort to audition for the Western Regional Middle School Concert Band, as well as jazz and chorus, as well as those selected to perform in the festival itself. The middle school concert takes place on March 21st and 22nd, which is this coming weekend, at Western Connecticut State University in Danbury. Students will have the opportunity to work in band, chorus, and jazz ensembles with some of Connecticut's most accomplished middle school musicians, conducted by nationally renowned conductors as well as educators. The highlight of the Western Regional Festival is a concert performance that will showcase and highlight all of their hard work. That concert will take place again on Saturday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. at WestCon campus, and is open to the public, and we urge you all to attend. Tonight, we will be saying congratulations, and we will be recognizing many or all of these students. I do have a certificate here, so once I call your name, if you could please stand up and come meet the board and come accept your certificate. The first student that we have up is Corey Acevedo. Isabella Bardos. Harlan Barton.
That's okay.
Liam Bleakley. Cottrell Clay. Jack Caccia. Hayden Coleman. Kathy Caminares. Alexandra Di Toronto. Billy Doherty. J.D. Dufort. Riley Finn. Daniela Flores. Maddie Froelich. Hannah Keys. Jonathan Kling. Tommy Knowles. Ariel Langlos. Sahai Lara. Abby Lewis. Olivia Lipson. Alina Ludger. Jasmine Manning. Michael Malagis. Ethan Mills. Dan Piro. Stephen Pare. Oops. Michelle Porchadou. Lucas Quadrini. Shadikar Rahman. Jonathan Roach. Mike Secchi. Ryan Stelly. Michael Sazebo. Sean Walters. We also have several certificates for children that aren't here because they're at a field trip. David Chuba's not here. Talon Goulart, as well as Stephanie Rodriguez. We want to thank all of the children for coming tonight. We've got a great crowd. When we're done, you can all leave, because I'm sure we're going to have a long meeting tonight, so you can go home and do homework. But I do want to, I know Mr. Bellagambo's here from West Rocks Middle School, if you can stand up. And any other teachers, we've got family members. I don't know if Ms. Golding's here. Is Sarah Golding here? No, okay. Teachers, family members, if you could stand up and applaud all the children, because they've done a really great job and they've put a lot of effort. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
And it is literally okay for you to go home now. It's always a fun moment for us to recognize all this achievement. Thank you.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, you're right. She's kind of grown up. Is that what you look like, right? Got my legs. Looks more like you. Wait till they leave. Yeah.
Alrighty, the next item on the agenda is public comments, and we'll go to Mr. Kasimis.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Again, we always appreciate you taking the time to come and address the board. Just a couple of notes. When I call your name, please come up to the podium. Give us your name and your address for the record. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, I will do one of these. At 3 minutes, my phone will go off, and at that time, we ask that you close. Please keep your comments civil and right to the point. Let's see, we have first Miss Angela Harrison.
Hi, Angela Harrison at 7 Fable, Norwalk.
Do you want to close that laptop?
You can close the laptop so we can all see you.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I know we're going back and forth with the Common Core, and I just want to share an experience that I had in the Norwalk Public School. And I was dealing with actually the Common Core, so I went to a lot of the meetings concerning the Common Core, and at the meetings, we were told that this would kind of make the playing field level for all students. But when my experience at Rowayton School, elementary school, that was not the experience I had at all. And the same segregation that I see that had been happening for years with my children in the school system was the same thing I experienced with my grandson in that school. And they were dealing with the Common Core. So the point that I want to make is that if the teachers, if we are not doing nothing to change the mindset of these teachers and to elevate them to a higher level of education and learning, then it doesn't matter what program you bring in, we're still gonna have the same results. It's gonna be the same result. Because I questioned it at the school. Norwalk looks beautiful. They have schools that look fabulous, but they're wicked inside. So even though something can look very nice on the outside, the inside of how people are dealing with the families that come into the school system, how people are dealing with the children, is a whole nother issue that is not being addressed. So, Mr. Rivera, I really wish you take your time with it and learn what happens in the school system here in Norwalk. The settings might look good, but the things that are happening to the parents do not feel welcome coming into the school system. That's shameful. And for it to not be being addressed is a problem. And even though you can bring in the Common Core, you can bring in any other type of program, if the people have still not learned how to become more diverse, we're gonna deal with the same issues and same problems. And I think it's very sad state that Connecticut State, out of all the United States, came in last for black children. That's embarrassing, because we already know that the staff here gets more money than a whole bunch of states. So it has nothing to do with money, and this is very sad. So I just want to make you aware that the Common Core, if the teachers aren't going to really fulfill it like how the program was written to be, it's not going to make a difference anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Ms. Shirley Quesada.
Good evening, everybody. I want to share my.
Sorry, I need your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Shirley Quesada. I live in 19 Balkan Street.
Thank you.
I have two boys. The two boys went to the Brookside. One still is in the Brookside. I want to share my experience about my son, the first one. I never was involved in his education. I didn't even know what it was an open house, when the school offered an open house. I never went. And so this boy, the latest one, is special needs. So I have to get involved. And as I went involved, I noticed that my son that I have been involved, his grades are even better than the other one. I never was involved. So I see a big difference. I compared the grades. And now my boy that was in the Brookside for 5 years is an A-grade student. He's very good, but in the past, I never was involved because I didn't even know what it was, open house, and I didn't understand a lot of things. And in the few days ago, I was talking to my friends from my street, and they said that they don't know what is an open house. So I started explaining to them what it was. So that's what I wanted to share, how the difference I have been in both places. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Miss Olivia Darty.
Good evening, panel. My name is Olivia Darty, 10 Cliff Street.
Thank you.
First, I would like to thank you for serving. I know that you guys often get a lot of slack, but I want to thank you for your time. I'm here this evening because I want to talk about more community involvement between teachers and parents. I think as the church is a cornerstone to the community, so should the school system be. And I believe that there are many parents who want to get involved in the school system, but they don't know how. They don't know how to connect to their teachers. They may not have the education. They may feel not qualified to speak with the principal. And I think having a hub or having a school base that welcomes parents, that shows them how to help their child with their homework, that explains the curriculum to them outside of open house, as Shirley mentioned, could be essential to children in their growth and closing that gap that we all talk about. For instance, I have 2 nieces that I raise, and I'm on it when it comes to academics, just because I know the importance of it. But I have many friends who are not active in their children's learning because they don't know how to do the homework, they don't feel welcome in the school system, for the same reason I explained 30 seconds ago. So I think if there was some type of hub, some type of unity between the teachers and the parents, that they feel welcome coming into the school system, they feel welcome talking about the curriculum, they just feel like they have a part in the child's learning, I think it would do wonders. And it is my hope that with the panel and the community, that we can somehow create an initiative to make this possible. Because I think parents want to do it, they just don't know how. And I think, I think teachers want to, reach out to those parents and really take that child under their wing, but they may not have the support that they need. So again, it's my hope that somehow an initiative can be implemented to fulfill this need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Alvin Mosby.
My name is Alvin Mosby, 6 Brookhill Lane. I'm here tonight. I want to clear up some matter. I was at the last meeting, and the problem I'm having right now, every time when I speak about something, there was already negative things about me and my family and stuff. So I want to get it clear tonight, so let the public know what's going on tonight. Every time when I speak about something, but they never get my side of the story, and putting stuff in the paper, saying some things about me and my father and stuff. So I want to clear it up tonight, So I'm getting tired because certain stuff, what I got out there, legal stuff, will be confidential, but stuff's coming out now, so I want to get it clear tonight, So that stuff will be got put with the Board of Education should be confidential and stuff, I'm saying, because when I had to do before with the union stuff, we used to keep stuff confidential till everything is clear. But the problem is, stuff is coming out, they're not getting my side of the story first, but they take somebody else's side of the story, and they putting stuff out there, and I don't like it at all, I'm saying. I won't have no problem at all if they decide to come to me, address it to me, let me know what's going on. 'Cause I be getting a lot of stuff, about my family and stuff like that. I'm getting pissed about. Never had no problem living in Norfolk all my life here. I went to school here. Because I got hired by the Board of Education to do a good job, and I believe in my rights with the union and stuff, so I here tonight to speak on about the union. I get attacked because I feel like if they treat me wrong, I'm gonna say something. I'm not scared to open my mouth at all. I don't hide none. I know my track record. I'm saying I never had no problem, but guess what? When I make a comment about something at all, I expect for the person to talk to me first before they put anything about me. Because you don't know me that good. You gotta get to know me first. And check my track record out too, since 1987, when I first got hired. You will see the difference. Very important stuff too. Every time I look at something, I get pissed about it. I say, what they trying to do? Because we got all good workers that working hard and stuff. Don't penalize me because I speak up. I'm saying, I haven't done nothing wrong at all. I come to work every day, so I want to make sure the record be straight tonight. Okay? So I got to say tonight. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Stanley Schuler.
Stanley Schuler, I'm the president of Local 1042. I live in Stratford, 97 McKinley Avenue. I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Moses was saying about, I know it's in the paper about, he's upset about the contract that we had, about 55 to 59. I'm a little upset too because the point is, me becoming the president at the time, the board had decided to, on our board, on our union side, decided to do that. Me coming in as new president, it was in transition, it was already set. We had a vote on it, and we had like 69 people, maybe 4 people didn't vote, they did vote for it. There's been comments like, I went, me and the board had this special deal going or something like that, which is not true. My point is, if the members vote on something, I have to honor it as the president, and I had to sign off on that. And the same thing, we have issues with our current contract now that we'll talk about later on. A deal's a deal, whether we like it or not, on our end or the board's end. So if we have a contract or something that we signed, then it should be honored on both sides. And we'll talk more about the other issues that we have concerning our contract with our members here. We have some concerns with other stuff, and I just want to thank for you guys meeting with us tonight and talking about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Ms. Lisa Thompson.
Lisa Thompson, 24 Highland Avenue. I wanted to share a couple of personal stories with you tonight about why I think you should vote for Dr. Rivera's comprehensive ELA plan tonight. I arrived in Norwalk from Singapore in the fall of 2004, and as the newbie in town, I was drafted into the treasurer's position of our PTC. The big issue at the time was the elementary ELA curriculum. That's right, 10 years ago. Turns out the PTA and school staff wanted to buy a curriculum from Columbia Teachers College. It was ridiculously expensive, and the PTA was going to raise thousands of dollars for teacher professional development. As the treasurer, my first resistant question to the school board, PTA, was why was the PTA in the curriculum business? I soon learned that there really wasn't an ELA curriculum, at least not the one like the one that Dr. Rivera is proposing, for reading, writing, vocabulary, spelling, grammar, comprehension, etc. Teachers had a list of topics and skills they were supposed to cover. How they did that was up to them. It dawned on me that not having a framework of year-on-year instruction to build on during the foundational years in elementary school was a problem for the kids, and it wasn't fair to the teachers. So the Columbia Readers and Writers Workshop was purchased. Should it have been? Probably not, but in light of nothing, it was better than nothing. A couple of years later in 2006, at the end of second grade, my younger son took a standardized reading test. His score was appalling. He was testing below grade level in the 42nd percentile. How could that be? I was reading with him every night, Frog and Toad books, Magic Treehouse. Over the next 6 months, we were trying to figure out why his score was so low, since it was inconsistent with an aptitude test he had taken, also in second grade. We finally figured out what was wrong. It wasn't his reading, it was his vocabulary, which is a component of reading. I asked where all the Wordly Wise vocabulary books had gone. His brother 2 years earlier had used them, and I never really got a straight answer. So I bought a vocabulary book at Barnes & Noble, and let my mother, a retired elementary teacher, work with him for 15 minutes a night for the next 18 months. By 5th grade, he was reading at the 95th percentile with his reading. My takeaway from all of this, we've been talking about an ELA curriculum for a long time in Norwalk. Were it not for the Common Core, we might still be arguing over it. Parents and PTAs should not be in the curriculum business. However, having been in the curriculum business, I know it's not just about textbooks. It must also include comprehensive professional development for staff, and it should also include outreach to the community and parents. There are over 40% of our kids in this district are of color or on free and reduced lunch. And in my son's Brian McMahon class today, how many of those kids have been instructional casualties of what didn't happen in elementary school? They probably lack and may lack the means that I had to correct it. So basically, we hired Dr. Rivera to be our instructional leader, and I ask you tonight to support him. I strongly need you all to vote for the comprehensive language arts plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that is all that is signed up for public comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Moving right along. We will go to superintendent's. Okay, come on down.
My name is John Mosby. I'm a homeowner on 15 Addison Avenue, South Norwalk, Connecticut. First of all, I would like to say to Mr. the Chairman that I want to take 1 minute to clear up what my son said about the newspaper, about what they say about us. The minutes are misinterpreted, and they do twist the minutes around, what Mr. Mosby say. I stand on my ground. I worked in the school system for 34 years, and I know the school system upside and down. And I know contracts upside and down. And I know when contracts are rigged, they're rigged. Yes, them contracts been rigged in the background, and I stand on that. I know contracts. I'm not gonna get into it tonight, but them contracts been rigged. Number two, I wanna clear up something. What I said before, I say that we have no diversity in this system. And in the paper, they say, yeah, well, Mr. Mosby do all that rambling. I ain't rambling. Tonight, I got doctored. I ain't rambling. And this comes from the Board of Education. And I shared it with the superintendent and all of you, and I want them to share it to whoever want to write the thing. Here they should stick it for 213. It says right here, 212 white teachers in the secondary only. Listen now, black teacher 15, Hispanic only. Let me look at it. 11. This is a fact for 213. This is your problem. I'm getting tired of these minority blacks come up here, the problem is you ain't hiring no black teachers, no. That's the problem in the school system. The principal, you ain't hiring none. We are the majority in the school system. You trying to put the Spanish against the black. Right there in Bridge High School, I loved out there in them. But what you doing now, you're loading up with that was a black school one. Now you're loading with all Spanish. You're shutting out the blacks. I'm not gonna let it happen. And you get mad all you want. I'm gonna get you straight now. I told Dr. Merrill, start to hire some black teachers. On the secretaries, you get rid of all the secretaries. I looked at that, they're falling like fly. That's what the problem is. And I'm tired of y'all sitting up here grinning, and you know what the problem is. Let me say one more thing, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna tell you like it, I got the document. I'm gonna say this, now I got document tonight, and I want you to print, but I don't fool around. If you don't straighten it out, I'm gonna straighten it up.
30 seconds.
Just one more second, give me a minute now, don't interrupt me, sir. Right here, right there in 209, they say to fix up bridge, that's what I say. I didn't say, hey, bridge. They say here, to fix up bridge was supposed to got near $3 million, but $3 million to help it. Norwalk High got $5 million. All the other schools got millions. West Rock, $5 million. Columbus, $4 million. All these other schools get it. You never spend one dime on bridge. That's what I'm talking about. And I want you to say, if you're going to say something about me, say the truth. Another thing, and I'm
Hey,
getting
Mr.
off.
Mosby, that's 3 minutes.
All right, another thing. I sent a letter to you all through the superintendent that I want to answer something. I don't know what it got you, but under the bylaw, it said I got a right to speak on it. What happened to my letter? That's what I'm going to say, then I'm going to sit down. What happened to my letter?
Thank you.
Don't try to sugarcoat. What happened to my letter?
Mr. Mosby, your 3 minutes are up. I
Yeah, but
don't mean to
wanna
be
ask what happened to
disrespectful.
my letter I sent to you? They say the public have a right to send a complaint through here. I want to know why it ain't that you submitted to them, doctor.
The Board Executive Committee received a letter.
Okay, well, but you'll probably put on the agenda for the next meeting?
I defer to the board.
What happened was I was out of town. I don't mind speaking. I was out of town, and I thought that it was proper that the executive committee sat down.
Yeah, but I'm
and
letting you
discussed
know
it.
I got a right to these
Of course you
things.
do. No, of course you do. There's
And
no
you're not
question
gonna
about it.
beat Mr. Mosby
Mr. Mosby,
down.
there's no question. We just needed to sit down and have a face-to-face. That's it. That's all it was. I was in Louisiana all week last week.
But okay, now, I just want to let you know.
No,
Point of information?
thank you.
Yes.
Yes, is this letter that Mr. Mosby referring to addressed to the board, or was it to the board completely? Because I have no knowledge of no letter, I was not given any letter. I'm not aware of this at all whatsoever until his comment now. So if there was something that was addressed to me, I request to have it, because it's my right, if something was addressed to me, to have it. And someone should have told me what is the content.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I was in Louisiana last week. I got an email from Dr. Rivera, a letter from Mr. Mosby, about filing citizen's complaint, I think it was.
Yes.
Citizen's complaint against the chairman, and being that he had to excuse himself from that process, it was up to Heidi and I and Dr. Rivera to sit down. I was in Louisiana. I said, can I please at least come home so we can have a sit down and see how we can move this forward, what the proper policy is. That's it. That's all the discussion was. So tonight, after this meeting, we're going to sit. If the policy states it's for the whole board, then that's the way we're going to go. That's all.
But everyone has a right
Correct.
to request an audience with the Board of Education.
Well, absolutely. Like I said, the email
So the
came.
decision, if it's for the board completely.
There was no decision. I just wasn't here to see the policy and sit down and find out what the process is. That's as far as it went.
Okay,
It was innocent.
okay,
Uh-uh. I don't lie.
I didn't say it.
I think it'd be helpful if we
Am I
had
correct,
a
Dr.
time
Rivera?
frame on what we're looking at, so that we'd be at least on the same page once we leave here. It also gives the public that.
Absolutely. We're going to have a meeting right after this, Heidi and I and Dr. Rivera. We're going to look at the policy and what it states. And at that point, we'll move forward and tell the board what's going to happen.
This is,
No, Ms. Mosby has her hand up.
yeah, this is the, how many people, now you got both, because Mike's behind you doing.
No,
So,
Oh.
understand, you got two people.
Miss-
Go ahead.
Director.
You should run.
Ms. Murray still had her hand up.
Right,
She had something to say.
So so really, if we're looking at this, we're looking at a policy that would allow the board to be able to view this or listen to this or not? Is that what you're looking for, guidance?
I have never been involved in a civilian citizen complaint, and I was not, the policy was not available to me. So I asked Dr. Rivera and Heidi, can I at least come back, because he had to excuse himself. Can I at least come back and sit down, let's have a quick face-to-face and find out what the policy says. Then we could, if it's to the whole board, then we go to the whole board. If it's just the executive committee, then it's just the executive committee. Like I said, I don't know what the policy is, and I know Dr. Rivera's pulled it today. So we're going to sit and discuss it. Just the policy, nothing else. Yes.
This is the second time that someone requested to see the entire board. And again, we're not given that opportunity to at least be part of it. An email or something to us stating that we have something out there would have been nice. I understand there's an executive committee and so forth, but we are all board members and we should all be treated equally. And that should have been some kind of notification to us that it's out there. And that makes me wonder what else is coming to the board that we're not aware of. So I do have concerns about that in a sense, because if people keep asking to see the entire board and they send letters in and they follow the process, and you're trying to tell us that it's up to 3 people to decide whether or not the board's going to know about it,
No,
there's a problem.
I didn't say that. I said, I don't know what the policy is. Dr. Rivera sent it to Heidi and I says, can we at least sit down and go through the policy and see what it is? Because I have never been involved in one. I have no knowledge of another citizen complaint. If there was
But
one.
it was addressed, I'm sorry.
No.
It was addressed to the board.
When was
And
that?
normally in the past, whenever something is addressed to the board, we all would get a copy because it was, given to the board.
It was addressed to the superintendent. That citizen complaint from Mr. Mosby was addressed to the superintendent, and he gave it to us. And I'm not throwing it on him. We just don't know what.
I'm happy to speak to that. It was addressed to me. I was not aware of the policy. I believed it was to be addressed to the executive committee. I learned yesterday of the policy. I sent the exact wording from the policy. And obviously, I think what Mr. Kasimis has explained, he was out of town. But yes, as of yesterday, they were made aware of what the policy said and that it needed to go to the full board.
Reference a policy number would be good.
I don't know what it is.
Dr. Rivera, the policy number that you referenced to the executive committee, could you share that with us?
9040.
Thank you.
That's an administrative.
Okay.
One last question. When was this letter sent?
Probably 5 or 6 days ago, last week.
It was sent a week ago, and it was just looked up today? To reference to find out about citizen complaints from the community? So it was sent in a week and it was just looked up in the book today? When was it looked up?
I forwarded to I'm going to tell you, I forwarded to the other members of the executive committee. Mr. Lyons had to disqualify himself. That was done. Then I was out sick for 2.5 days. And then I came back, and the policy was brought to my attention. I looked at the policy specifically, and at that point in time, within a couple of hours, I then forwarded that exact policy language to Mr. Kasimis.
Okay, yes, thank you, but you see, we all have policy books. We all were given policy books when we were on the board. So we have them in our homes, we have them on the premises. So, you know, I just think our response time should be, you know, a little better. At least inquiries.
Can we move forward now? No? All right, we'll move on next to the superintendent's report. Dr. Rivera.
I indicated to the board at the last meeting that we had completed our report for Briggs, and I've asked Marie Allen to come in and share some of the highlights of that. Marie, if you wouldn't mind coming forward. I think we might need to jack up the computer again. I don't know what happened to it.
We folded a check for the
Okay.
public speakers.
Good evening, Dr. Rivera and members of the board. We're pleased to be here tonight to update you on our status at Briggs regarding the turnaround plan. And I would like to begin by introducing the staff and students to you. Gerard Dawes, Director of OPP, Our Piece of the Pie. Sandra Feoas, Reading Specialist. Christopher DeRosa, Psychologist. Bradford Williams, Special Education Teacher. Natalia Ramirez, student. Marcella Menjivar, student. And Eileen Moore, student.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good.
The last time I was here, we showcased some of our art talent. Now you've heard the music. Just as Natalia said, it's a new day, and it is a new day for Briggs. And we're here to share some of the things that are happening at Briggs. If you look at the slides, when you visit Briggs, you're going to see a small, unique environment that meets the needs academically, socially, emotionally, and just the health, overall health and wellness of our students. Students come to Briggs because they've lost credits. We are offering an innovative academic program that focuses on internships, college, a push to college. We've improved our attendance rate, graduation rate. So far this year, we have 12 students that are looking at graduating this June. Last year, we had 10. We also have wraparound services through our health and wellness team. We also have a parent liaison that reaches out along with OPP to our families, and we have scheduled events. for the first time. Mr. Lyons, you joined us at open house. That was the largest open house so far.
That was fun.
Great turnout, and it was wonderful, wonderful evening. And now for our students.
Good evening. My name is Marcella. I attend Briggs High School. Briggs is highly individualized. It has a reputation of where kids, how can I put this to you guys? Where kids are sent from Brian McMahon, Norwalk High School, because their high school gave up on them. They were usually sent because of their behavior. I just want to let you guys know that Briggs is completely different now. Briggs is a place where students, it's their second opportunity because they actually want to become someone in life. Briggs has changed their reputation a lot. And I want to thank Dr. Rivera for taking his time to help us with our turnaround plan. And I also want to thank him for bringing us M&M. Thank you for actually listening to us, for caring for us, for actually letting us have a voice now. And I would just like to say that we're really grateful for you guys. Thank you so much. I am also a mother. I have a 2-year-old, which means I have to attend high school because I want to graduate. I want to become someone in life so I could support her, like everyone has taught me to be independent and to support her. And thanks to Briggs and the environment, I can actually say that I'm going to graduate on time now. When at my regular high school, I would have graduated 2 years, where if you walk into Briggs, it's not the environment where you want to run behind someone and say, please help me. No, there isn't any more bad kids there. It's not like that. It's an environment where it's a family. We are all a family, and teachers are there, yes, to support us and to teach us, but they're also there to listen to us. And when you walk in there, you will feel that good vibe, and you will really get to know what Briggs is really about. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen, and I attend Briggs. And since I've been attending Briggs, I've been able to earn better grades, and I've been attending school regularly. And that is because we have a small environment, and we have one-on-one attention with the teachers, and no one's left behind. It's like no child should be left behind. And we also have opportunities like summer school that's given to us with no cost, and also a credit recovery program, APEX, that is given by the teachers, and they're supportive about it. And we're also was given the opportunity to have a Youth for Council Justice program ran by Reverend Ray and Reverend Dancy. And I can say that now I also want to share with you that there is no such thing as a bad Briggs anymore, and we're here to welcome you a new beginning and a better reputation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Natalia Ramirez, and I'm just going to follow to what Eileen was saying. As we were saying, Briggs is a school of opportunities. The moment you walk in through those doors, it's my first year there, and I can actually say that I'm so grateful with my guidance counselor is actually here, and I am really grateful because he gave me an opportunity that at the moment it seemed so frustrating and it was so crazy to me, but I'm really grateful where I am right now. And I want to share with you guys one of the opportunities that we have, and one of those opportunities is Town Hall. It's a meeting that we have once a week, usually, and it's a meeting that we have, and we have the opportunity to voice our opinions and talk about what we feel that we need in school, or something that could be bothering us, or just anything that we want to share. Talk about trips, talk about how we're doing just monthly, or when grades are coming out. It's just a meeting that we have. And we want to thank Dr. Rivera for being there for this past Monday. He visited us and he was in a town hall meeting. And we want to thank you for listening to our needs. And I know that you saw the need and the want that the students at Briggs have to make everything better. It's not just one, it's actually all of us. We want a better place. We want to better, have an environment for people to want to come in. I think that Briggs is defined as a family. It's such a small environment, and we are a big family. We love each other. There's a little bit of disagreements here and there, but we love each other. And I want to thank Dr. Allen because I can actually say that through it all, Briggs, every decision that Briggs made had gone through every student. And you don't get to do that at every school. And the decisions that we make, that the school makes, has gone through us. We have heard them, we hear about it, and I think that every student loves and appreciates what she has done to our school. There has been 3 years. The bad reputation that Briggs had is no longer there. Just like Eileen said, it's a new beginning. And this past 3 years, there has been not one fight and now nothing that has caused a chaos in the school. And for us, that's an accomplishment. I also want to thank our teachers, and we love our teachers. They have taken us in, and we are not just any students. We are their kids. They love us, they care for us, they are after us like parents, and we have really appreciated that. Thank you so much. And I want to thank my principal again, because she has been more than just a principal. She has been a friend and a mom to each one of us, and we love her for that. And I'm just going to leave saying that I love the experiences that Briggs has given us, and I want to thank you once again for giving us the chance that you're giving us, for opening the doors for us. And I want to ask that for you guys to keep continuing supporting us with this turnaround plan. It's just the beginning, and we want to get past that finish line, and you guys are able to help us. So thank you so much.
When you look at Briggs, you see the academic component and the wraparound services. Under academics, we offer individualized learning plans. We look at assessment. We base our academic programs on student interests. We look at a child's career path. We're looking at next year holding the core classes Monday through Thursday, and Fridays we could look at students going to NCC. We're building that partnership. They are looking at going out into the community to do internships, or they're staying on campus to do projects. We have a great credit recovery program. We're looking at blended learning and enhancing that program. Service learning. Our school psychologist, Chris DeRosa, will talk more about wraparound services, so I'll hold that for him.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Williams. I'm a special education teacher here at Briggs. What I wanted to say is about 10 years ago, I made the career change and became a teacher. I got a master's degree, and I started out at Columbus Magnet School. Tremendous school. I enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to teach my daughter there. I then ended up going back to school to get a master's degree in special education. And what special education meant to me was it gave me the ability to teach people in a different manner. I am teaching people the same material, but everybody is not a cookie-cutter child. Some children learn differently than others, and that is especially the case at Briggs. I believe that all children are special needs. The education aspect we look at oftentimes, but what we need to look at more, especially at Briggs, is everybody comes with certain pluses and certain minuses. You've seen the talent here today. Natalia is a tremendous singer. There's plenty like her at Briggs. But there's also work that needs to be done, and that's why we have created the new turnaround plan. The new turnaround plan was designed so that we could measure growth in various areas. The turnaround plan Okay. The turnaround plan has amended the goals to reflect more appropriate accountability measures. We plan on using what is called the Holistic Performance Index. By that, we are looking at growth at Briggs as 40% in academics, 20% in attendance. Obviously, if the children are not there, there's not going to be a lot of growth. So attendance is key. And 10% for each of both credit accumulation. Many students come to Briggs undercredited, and we have various programs which allow them to recoup those credits. As she was speaking to a minute ago, she was allowed to recoup credits and will be graduating on time. That's a very important aspect. Behavior, social, emotional is also a very important aspect at Briggs. Some of our children come here with behavior problems, whether they have an IEP or not. There are behavioral challenges there. The staff is very cognizant of that, and we have wraparound services with OPP that help us to that goal. Also, workforce, career, and internships is a part of it. Our goal is, I know my goal is, was when I was a parent, when I became a new parent, my goal was to make sure that my children had a better life than the one I had growing up. And I think that with some of these goals in place we have at Briggs, we are going to see to it that they get a good education, that they get a good job, that they have an internship or some sort of skill that will allow their children to have it better than they did. Goal number 2 is we want to recommend the consideration of average daily attendance to 20% within the Connecticut average. Is that right? Yes. Okay. We also want to establish incremental goals over the next 5 years and determine an attainable goal for the end of the 5 years, given our present data. The reason why this is in goal 2 as well as goal 1 is the importance of attendance. Attendance is a major factor in education. No matter how good the teachers are or how bright the students are, if they're not in the building, we're not going to be able to do our jobs, and they're not going to be able to prosper as well as they normally might. Our third and final goal is by the end of the first year of participation in the Commissioners Network, and for each year thereafter, there will be an increase in the percentage of students who attend college, technical trade schools, or career ready. And that will be measured by participation and performance in standardized assessments. B, students completing workforce development training, and C, students participating in internships. So as you see, our goal for Briggs is not merely to get somebody a high school diploma. Sure, that is our initial goal, but most importantly, it is so that we can build a career for them so that they can have a better life than they had growing up. Thank you.
And at this time, I would like to just skip a couple of slides in the interest of time. Recruitment and referrals. We accept students from the comprehensive high schools, but at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Ed Singleton to stand. Mr. Singleton is the point person from Norwalk High School, and I must say, he personally escorts some students to our school to tour the school. He is the person that we speak to from Norwalk High. He reviews the intakes for us, and he makes sure that the right student comes to Briggs, the students that will be successful. He follows up. Even if the student becomes a Briggs student, he calls, he comes by, he checks on the Norwalk High students year after year. And he's a great resource to us, but I'd like to publicly thank him. You've been very And just quickly, the wraparound service area, just 30 seconds for Mr. DeRosa to come up. Wraparound service is the key to our success. Let's just quickly.
Well, I'm going to be very brief. We at Briggs High School are dedicated to the growth of our students, not only in the classroom, but also in other areas of their lives, home, family, social, medical. The Briggs Health and Wellness team provides a wide range of wraparound services for our student population with diverse needs. Our team is comprised of myself, the school psychologist, our building principal, guidance counselor, social worker, director of Our Piece of the Pie. And we also work in collaboration with the Appleby Center, which includes a licensed practitioner. Our team meets weekly to identify students who are struggling in these in these areas, separate areas that are wraparound services. And our job is to meet weekly to discuss the students, design individualized support plans, plan the implement, and then monitor effectiveness over time using both qualitative and quantitative data. And at these meetings, one staff member is designated to be a point person, and we monitor progress in many different ways. And I'm going to turn it back now to Dr.
I just encourage you to visit. I think you'll understand once you walk through the halls at Briggs, but I wanted to thank you again for your support, and I'm looking forward to updating you once we continue down our path. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next items on the agenda. Next item is Section 1, the consent calendar, which is 6.2A, approval of personnel, 6.2B, approval of budget transfers, and 6.2C, approval of trip, Ponus Road Middle School to Hiroshima City, Japan, May 12 to 22, 2014. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Mr. Barbas moves. Is there a second? Mr. Chiramonte, any discussion?
Excuse me.
Yes?
Is that only, the personnel, what is that?
The personnel items, the budget transfers, the two personnel things, I think it's two resignations. Budget transfers, and then the trip by Ponus Ridge.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right. If no further discussion, all in favor of adopting the consent calendar, please indicate. Unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, next is approve revision to policy quadruple zero, mission and functions statement of mission. Is there a motion to approve the revision? Mr. Simmons moves. Is there a second? Ms. Keys? Dr. Rivera, if you could just real quick.
Again,
quick summary
I'll
of what
speak,
we're doing.
sure, I'll speak to both policy 0000 and 0220.
Thank you.
Regarding mission. Again, this harkens back to when we met back in late November, it was in November for our board retreat. And it was at that time when I took the opportunity, especially with new board members joining us, to share the strategic planning work that had been ongoing and essentially offered a mission and a vision, goals that we would be putting in place within our strategic plan, and presented that to the board and asked the board for some input. The board had a chance to react, to share some input to that. It was agreed that we would later advance it to the policy committee. It went to the policy committee. I believe it was, I can't remember the day, the last policy committee. And that was then introduced a couple of weeks ago. So all of this, these two resolutions, 3 and 4, are in sync with us, the Board of Education, and me as your superintendent, of being clear about what our mission and our vision is, what our goals and what our objectives are, and going on record in that regard.
Okay. Any discussion, questions, Ms. Rivas?
Yes. In hearing about the policy 0220, I think it is?
Well, there's two of them.
What, is that the name?
What's next?
Oh, because he's
Well,
mentioned two, he just
Yeah,
mentioned
he spoke to
two.
two. The only one that there's a motion pending is the first one, the quadruple zero.
I don't know which one that was, since he mentioned both of them. I thought you're doing both at the same time, we just...
We could.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's
The
fine.
motion was for the first one.
That's fine.
Motion is for the first one, which is the 0000, statement of mission, vision, and values. I was going to just note on this, I think there's a typo. If you look under mission in all public schools create student focus, blah, blah, blah. There's every individual student to his or her levels. I think it should be to reach his or her highest level. I think that's just a technicality. Would the mover of the motion accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Any other Questions, comments?
Yes, what area are you amending again, please?
The first line had a word missing. It said, it's just a typo, challenges and supports every individual student to his or her highest. And I suggested that should say to reach his or her highest level of achievement.
Okay, yes.
All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll proceed to a vote on approving the new mission, statement of mission, vision, and values. All in favor, please indicate. Unanimous. Okay. Chair would now entertain a motion to approve the revision to policy 0220, which is goals and objectives for school operations in Norwalk. Do we have a motion? Ms. Murray moves. Second. Mr. Kasimis. Discussion.
Yes.
Ms. Rivas.
I would also like to make a amendment, a correction amendment or an addition, because under the goals, under additional goals in this, they had English language learners meet or exceed state annual measurable achievement objectives. And it says all children, all students on track. Students meet goal level in grade 3. I want to also include special education as well, because when we had a presentation on the gains, there was only 3% from the scores that were proficient under the demographics under special ed. And under special ed, the students, which is it's a mixture population, because within that special ed classification, you have ELL students, you have minority students, you have all children under special education, and they're part of our school district. So I think, because there's nothing mentioned here on special education, because how, I'm very concerned as to, I don't see how the students will adapt and be ready and participate in reaching their highest potential. So I don't believe that there's anything stating within this policy that would reflect that. And I think that we have to make it a priority as well, because if we leave it out, I don't think that we'll be focusing on our group of special education as much. And this is a weak area for us. And we've had the correct report, and they've came to the district and looked at it and said that we are in need in this area in particular. And like I said, my concern is that only 3% proficient. And I think we're not putting a lot of focus on that. And these are also all children. So perhaps in the additional goals, I would like to have that writing in there, that language in there. And students meet goal at level in grade 3 reading. Does that actually include special education children as well? So I just want to, so we are held accountable also for this group of children that's in our district as well. So I really want to see if something is worded in this, because this is part of our mission and part of our goal. So it should have it down there somewhere. I think that this is why I'm going to be speaking on anything having to do with the vision, because the vision must include special ed. So you have to have it there, because we have that part of our demographics and it's part of our scorings.
Your point is well taken. And there are probably two ways that we could handle this. One, we could table this to the next board meeting so I can make sure we get the right language, because we have individual IEPs, and I just want to make sure that I get the language correct. And then, and that might be the best option. Or two, we can understand that we'll be coming back with an amendment to address the appropriate inclusion of special ed students.
Thank you. Could you also keep under consideration that as part of an inclusion and mainstreaming, that special education has to be included in the general curriculum of the school district? Because because of the inclusion and our mandates on the federal government side on the IDEA and on the FAPE. So we have to make sure that we're,
Okay.
All right, well, the chair would entertain a motion. My own feeling.
Withdraw my motion?
Withdraw the motion. My own feeling is, I'd rather get this right the first time than
Yeah.
rework it right away. So the chair would entertain a motion to table this to the next meeting so that Dr. Rivera can work on it. Mr. Kasimis moves. Is there a second? Ms. Rivas seconds. All in favor of tabling 0220 to the next meeting, please indicate. I think it's unanimous. Okay, so 0000 is adopted, 0220 is tabled to the April 1 meeting, and we'll work on that language. All right, next is approve resolution to take all actions necessary to advance Norwalk's 10-point literacy strategy. This is item 6.5. It's the lengthy resolution in the packet that basically describes the entire literacy strategy of Dr. Rivera. Is there a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a request and take out a section of
We have to have a motion before we can discuss it under Roberts, so. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, you move to put it,
I
to
move to
approve.
put it for discussion.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Second, Mr. Chairmonti, okay, so moved and seconded, discussion.
Okay.
Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I feel, this is this is a very, very important step. I like what the superintendent has in plan, but I would like to have it separate as far as the piloting goes, because I have concerns. There's no, what am I doing? We're number 5. Number 5? We're doing 4, 5, and
We're doing number 5.
We're doing number 5.
Number 5. This is the overall policy. This is not the adoption of the textbooks.
Because how come the recommendation reads what? What does the recommendation read?
10-point literacy.
It's the 10-point literacy
Strategy.
It's not the
Strategy.
textbooks. Textbooks is the next item, number 6.
It's going right.
We're on number 5.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wait a minute, okay.
Okay, Dr. Rivera, you want?
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Question. So this is the piece that has to do with the community and deciding on engaging no public libraries and things like that?
Correct. This is the overall statement of general policy.
Okay, so then will everyone be voting on that? Because, so even if you, Sherelle, if you sit on no public library, would you still be voting on that? Because I think that.
I can abstain.
Well,
I cannot vote, or I can recuse myself. Whatever.
Well, this is just a policy statement of intent. It's not an agreement or a
There's no
contract.
normative benefits or anything like that.
Pardon me?
There's no normative benefits with her.
No, there's no, it's not, if there was a contract, if we were approving a contract with the library, then absolutely she would have to disqualify herself.
But doesn't it say that we will be partnering with them and doing something with them?
It's a goal. It's one of our goals to engage the public libraries. We haven't even talked to them yet. It's
But
just
it
our
does-
goal to.
But then how could that be considered a policy if it's a goal? It's a policy is a bylaw, it's not?
Policy, no. We have goals all through our policies. If you look at those 2 volumes of policy books, half the stuff in there is goals and objectives.
Okay, so this is,
This board resolution simply authorizes me to engage in discussions with public libraries and our partners.
oh, it's not actually.
Yeah,
doing the-
it says, okay, because when I made the presentation, I said, here's some ideas that have been talked about, that have been suggested. What this resolution says is, we as a board endorse this comprehensive approach to addressing literacy. And it's on multiple, and some of the speakers who spoke tonight addressed some of those issues around parent connection and parent involvement and parent support and a lot of what I've actually included in here. And there are other aspects of what I've laid out in this 10-point plan. And this resolution simply is more of an umbrella saying, we as a board support that, endorse that. Now, specifically, the next vote that you'll be acting upon is going to be the specific curriculum itself. But here, I'm asking for your support for this comprehensive plan.
Okay, you see, because the problem says, this is read to me. these items are read to me from the packet, and it seems like since everything's all bunched together, and then the resolutions are on the pages, it seems like it's the same thing like being duplicated. So it doesn't seem like it's, so I think it's like one big basket, so I just wanted to make it clear to see what was, it's not specific to.
Right, if I can
Anything
specify, I mean,
individual.
what Dr. Rivera is trying to do with a number of these things that he's bringing to the board is update our policies to fit the new strategic plan, which we already voted for as part of the budget, and to get a strategy approved by the board. Now, a lot of these things are, like the first vote that we took on a policy tonight, are then going to be converted into formal policies. So once you've got the general feeling of, okay, we're authorizing the superintendent to go out and do these things, he's still going to have to come back to the policy committee and the board with a whole series of policy amendments probably over the next 6 months to get into the specifics. And those are all going to come back to the board for formal votes to go into the policy book. But this sort of gives him the authorization to proceed with looking at what kind of partnerships can be set up with the library, and then bring it back to us when he's got something that he thinks is substantive enough to work on that we can vote on. Ms. Murray?
With the motion that's there, out there, there's a part of, not the strategies are not a concern, but the involvement, who's involved in that conversation. You said it's gonna move to another level of policy, from goal to policy. And the fact of, I think you need something that makes it stronger, who is part of that conversation. And I believe in the community, I know we heard about parental involvement, but we need to have everybody at the table and being part of that conversation. Dr. Vera, and I'm not quite sure how that can be strengthened and put into this, but that is something that I am very concerned about. We had the same piece with Briggs, as we do with the 10-point strategy. Anything is making sure that there's representation at the table from the conversation from the very beginning to the end. So that is that is a concern of mine, that not so much going forward this, but how we do it. And that's where my concern lies on that. Not that we have it, but the fact of who's involved in it.
Let me just speak to that, because every single one of these points actually requires significant work in and of itself. For example, under parent engagement, parent training, and creating parent cafes, which I recommended using our Title I schools, we are going to have to work very closely with the 1 or 2 Title I schools, their parent group, their parent organization, their staff. So each one of these is going to be processed over time. The intent was, in that particular recommendation, to create 2 hubs, 2 parent hubs in 2 schools, to begin addressing, creating the kind of environment that, I can't remember what the speaker's name was, who had suggested that there be a hub, and that is going to be a very inclusive process at that school. Secondly, as we talk about, professional development, we have, as part of my presentation, I narrowed down what that's going to be. And we've got to stay focused. We only have a certain amount of resources. We know what the knowledge and skills are going to be of our staff. The kind of structures we need to have in place, that we know. If we're going to be accountable, we've got to make sure that whether it's the district data team, the district literacy team that I recommended, or the specific teams at each site are organized, and it's at the school level where they will be organized. The libraries is a much bigger discussion. The discussion with community partners is going to be one that's going to be involved at a larger level. Assessments will not be. We've got to have benchmark assessments. We've been using a certain type in 10 schools. We're going to expand that to 2 more schools. Increasing student access to after-school and quality after-school programs and Saturday and summer programs. That is one where I'm going to want to engage in discussions with community organizations, potentially churches and others, and I've already begun to have some of those conversations. They themselves have their own respective boards and communities. So there's going to be, for each one of these, a certain level of involvement that's going to occur.
My concern on that is that we know that our parents that you probably could maybe put hands on very quickly, who will be part of that, does not represent the student body, excuse me, population in Norwalk Public Schools. That is always a concern. It's a reality.
Excuse me, say that again? That the parents who I'm connecting to, that I'm connecting with,
Are
are
the
not
ones who are-
representative of parents of kids in the Norwalk Public Schools?
Not representative of all students, okay, the population of Norwalk Public Schools, okay? Diversity is something that's not there. We know it's a reality. So we have to work extra hard. There needs to be extra emphasis placed on that. The conversations are very easy with the parents who are always there, who are part of those groups. What I'm looking at is further outreach, and that can be done in each school. The principals know who they are.
Oh, you're talking about the parent cafes and the parent hubs that we're talking about.
In any aspect of it, we have parents who have input,
Right.
okay? And that's what I'm concerned about, that they're the same parents that who are always involved. We need to reach out and make sure that it is a diverse group of parents that are making these decisions, no matter what it is, whether it's a hub, no matter what. But anything that you're talking about in the community, that needs to make sure that it's well-rounded.
The very goal of what I'm trying to drive is more parent involvement from parents who represent all children, black, brown, Latino, Asian, white. I want to get all parents involved because they're not. I'll be the first one to agree with you on that.
That's correct.
And that's exactly what this is intended to do. So I understand what you're saying.
And that's a piece that I think was missing in just a broad brush, and I wanted to make sure that's on the record. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Ms. Mosby?
Going back to the parent support and engagement, because I'm a strong supporter of parental support and community engagement and support. With this K through 12 plan and a timeline that you were discussing, will you give us in writing steps on how you're going to implement generating the level of parent support and engagement out there as you go further, with the process?
The idea was, not the idea, the plan is that all of these strategies actually are embraced under the umbrella of our strategic plan. So as the strategic plan is finalized and those measures that we're going to be tracking, those are the measures that I'm going to come back and report to the board on, our strategic plan. So there will be an opportunity for the board to look at that. But, obviously, your goal is, the bottom line goal is improve student achievement. And you want to see more parents at the table. You want to see parents involved. You have to have more outreach. You want to see more parents engaged in different training opportunities and being able to work with their children. You want to measure the culture of your schools. Do you have a culture that's welcoming to parents? Do you have parents who want to be there, who want to come? There's a variety of different measures. Now, what those exactly are going to be will be whether we do it through a survey, whether we do it through some other means. Those will be incorporated as part of the metrics that we use with our overall strategic plan.
So with something like that, whether it's through a survey, will the board have an opportunity to at least know what avenue you're going to go through? Because I have the same concern that Mrs. Murray has, that we're not reaching out to all parents, in a sense, of all different children that are within the school system. And I just want to hear something that's going to, although you're telling us that that's one of the goals that you're trying to achieve, but I just want to feel comfortable knowing that we got something out there that will reach out to all, and not just a particular group all the time, because we have a lot of different kids in our school, parents that would love to participate. It's just that they're not given that opportunity, or feel that they cannot participate or step up to the plate, in a sense.
Yeah.
And
Or-
we need to sit there, it's going back to what one of the parents earlier said, about making parents and the community feel welcome. And that's something I think that we need to really focus on, because if they don't feel welcome, they're not going to come. And basically, looking at these scores, I know our main goal is to close the achievement gap. And looking at the scores here, 44% of our third grade, black students, scored, scored, on a 2013 CMT that, and 52% Hispanic scored at gold. So those are the type of scores that we keep saying that we want to sit and try to improve. But if you can't get the parents out because they're not feeling welcome, or you don't try to engage them in some of these different groups or groups to help, come in and voice, have their voices heard, then we're kind of like knocking our heads against the wall. It's not going to work. We're going to keep seeing the same results in the end, and we're going to have the same people come to the mic, or if people don't come to the mic, in a sense, that's because they're frustrated. And I just, I'm just hoping that with all this that's taken place, that at least the members on the board at least will have some kind of ideal, because I'm being quite honest, I don't feel that all members are getting all the information. And if that's the case, then we have a problem. So that's why that lack of distrust is there. It's not, it's there because some information are shared, some information is not shared. And how can we sit here and monitor something and expect that we're going to reach out to the community when we, as board members, some of us, feel that we're not getting that information? So, that's why all these questions are coming out, in a sense, because we want to make sure that we are well informed and that we are at that table and that we can get it out to the community, and the community, the parents and the people in the community are well informed as well, and that they have a choice and the opportunity to step up and be part of this school system and to help their children and help other children if they feel that that's something that they need to do. And we need to be able to reach out, make people feel more welcome, and treat everyone the same, even including board members as well, so that we can move forward. Or else we're going to be sitting here forever with the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, let me be clear for the record and say that I have shared everything that I have with board members, all board members, about these recommendations that I've made, about the process that I've followed, and what I've presented to the board 2 weeks ago, and again the week before that when I went to the curriculum committee. All that information has been shared. What's important to understand is that a lot of this is very formative. We're not going to change things overnight. We've got to have a plan that's achievable over time. When I think of creating the kind of culture of welcoming, I mean, we've got to start training for our office staff people. There's a lot of pieces to this besides how we connect in changing the culture. And all of these are the things that are very, very important. So I'm working now to say, okay, here's a framework. Now within this framework, Rivera, go ahead and make it happen. So my job now becomes one of working with appropriate communities and staff and begin advancing some of those changes that we know are going to make a difference, that we know can make a difference. Creating a welcoming center for people to feel comfortable. Having people who are bilingual, having information that's accessible to them, perhaps even having an individual who can assist with other problems. The movement of the Welcome Center from off the beaten path to down here was a step in that direction. This whole the importance of diversity training for all of our staff, especially our office staff. These are things that have been flagged, that we're gearing up to get ready to do. I had this very conversation with the head of the NFEP union about the kind of training that we need to do in some of our schools. So these are things that are moving. We just have to have a realistic plan for execution so that as I'm reporting to you on our progress and we're jointly looking at it, I can say, here's what we set out to do, here's what we want to accomplish in the first year, here's the best way that we think we can measure it right now.
Mary?
Dr. Rivera, just to give you just a little background, we've been here before. That same framework which you were speaking about. And really and truly, so some of these questions are asked because we've kind of fallen off the path a number of times prior to your tenure. So that you need to understand that we've heard this. The community involvement piece, who's at the table, what voices are heard. okay? To be fair and understand that that has happened. We've had the welcoming committees, we've sat on committees, so we want to move forward. It's not that you don't want to move forward, but I want it, in my mind, to be done correctly. Because if it had been done correctly from the very beginning, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation, we'd be a lot further ahead. So just to give you a little more history, some of these things that you've been speaking about, we've started, in some way, it just was lost by the wayside. And so it became more lip service. So that's something that you probably need to know, and if you need more information, that could be done at a different time, because we know time is ticking. And
You hired me to do this correctly. That's what you hired me to do. And I've laid out a plan to do it. And if there are problems or issues with the plan, tell me now. I think the frustration, from what I'm hearing from what you're saying is, you want to make sure it happens. And I'm telling you, there's going to be milestones, there's going to be a plan, there's going to be assessments. It ain't going to happen all in 1 year. But to change a system like this that has been operating as it has been for the last 10, 15, 20 years is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, but it'll happen.
And I definitely agree with you on that, okay? I'm in agreement, but the fact of it is, you just have to, you need to know some of the history, and it doesn't mean that we want to stay at this point, but we do know some of the pitfalls, and that's why when we share that with you, that we hope that we won't repeat that history.
Other comments? Ms. Mosby?
As a person who actually sat on one of those welcoming committees, and I went through the process, I know you said it's going to take some time, maybe a year or so, but I'm just hoping that throughout that process, we'll be more open to having different people involved. That's all we're asking for, is to make sure that we reach out to more of the people in the community going through that process. I know change can't happen overnight in some instances, but just the method of going out, reaching for different people to be involved could easily, be done.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. This, again, is on adoption of the resolution to authorize the superintendent of schools to take actions necessary to advance NOAC's 10-point literacy strategy. All in favor of approving the resolution, please indicate. And it is unanimous. Thank you. All right. Next item is number 6.6.
Yes.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve adoption of the following texts for use in the K-5 literacy component of the 10-point literacy strategy. 1, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Journeys Common Core Reading Program for grades K-5. 2, Scholastic Core Knowledge Classroom Libraries for grades K-5. And 3, Amplify Core Knowledge Language Arts Program for grades K2/Expeditionary Learning Reading Program for grades 3-5. Is there such a motion? Mr. Kasimis moves. Is there a second? Mr. Chiramonte, is there discussion? Ms. Rivas?
Okay, now I would like to separate.
All right, so you would like to make a motion to separate?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to separate the K through 2. K through 2, is it? Or is it pre-K to 2?
K2?
K2. The K2 that we had.
You want to separate item 3, which is the Amplify Core Knowledge Language Arts K2, Expeditionary Learning Reading 3-5?
Is that where you're discussing the pilot?
That's for the pilot.
Yes, I would like to separate the pilot and to be voted upon separately in the discussion.
All right, motion has been made to separate sub 3. Is there a second? Ms. Mosby seconds. Discussion.
Now I have to discuss?
Yes.
Okay.
It's your motion.
Okay, I would like to separate this item from here because under the presentation on the curriculum that we had, which was a very well-presented presentation, I had my concerns several concerns because they did not have an ELL piece, nor did they have a special education piece. It was said to me that the process, it would be 1 to 2 schools. 1 to 2 schools would have the opportunity to pilot the core knowledge for K through 2 to grade 2, And then I asked what would be the criteria, how would you select it? Since it does not contain an ELL piece nor a special education piece, which is, like I said, we're doing so poorly with that particular group of children. I wanted to know how would that be separated by the schools, because then children who are in special ed from kindergarten to second grade and ELL children, then I think that whichever school, whichever elementary school would select this, then they would have to make sure that the children that cannot be serviced are not partaking within this curriculum. So this is why I would like to separate it, to separate this from the rest of what we're voting on, because I do not want to hold that up, because it's an excellent research that was done on it, journey and what was presented to us as well, but I do have my concerns about this, and I would like to discuss it further by removing it from the rest. So this is part of the reason, but I don't want to continue on all of my reasons, because I must have pointed.
All right, any other discussion? Ms. Mosby?
This was one of the requests that I asked for earlier. I would like to have it separated as well, because I think that with the Journey program coming out, I know that we need to move ahead with the program, and I think that putting them together as a blanketed as one leaves us out for it hurts the curriculum in a sense, to where with Journey, you know, if someone's in favor of Journey, that's fine. If someone's not, and since Journey is going to be a curriculum that's going to be across the board from K-5, then I think that should be separate and should have its own, standing on its own. And then we can have discussions if there's any concerns, as Ms. Rivas had with the EL part, with the piloting. And I still have some concerns with the pilot too, as well, as far as who's going to be participating. And then I'm trying to get more information on how it's going to work with going up to the feeder school, because I believe that the middle schools have the Pearson anthology right now, and how would all this fit in, and, you know, going up into that feeding up into that. And I brought these concerns up at the curriculum meeting, and I'm just bringing it up again. I feel that putting them together shows a disservice to it. So just separating them, then we can have a discussion, and then we can vote on one and vote on the other, and we can move ahead with it. And I feel that there shouldn't be any problem with separating them, and we can move ahead.
Any other discussion? Ms. Rivas?
Yes, also, I don't know if I added this in there. Since it was said it would be a pilot, that it would be a pilot, and the application process is open to all 12 elementary schools to apply, I think it should have a separate resolution saying that this would be a pilot. There will be a free opportunity for any elementary school to apply for it. So there is no wording. There is no wording about that, and I think it, you know, there's more involved. Like, if we pick, how are you going to pick one of these two schools, or how, you know, there has to be some kind of a plan on how you're going to do that to select the two individual schools. But it doesn't mention anything, like I said, about a pilot. It should be just a separate item that says pilot of core knowledge for K through 2. So that's why I would like to, fellow board members, that's why I would like to take it out separately and say pilot, pilot core knowledge, whatever, maybe add a different resolution or something, so then we could maybe add to it or on what we would want on it.
Okay, any other discussion? Ms. Mosby?
Yeah, and by separating them, we're still going to have a vote on them. It's just that there's going to be just two votes, and that's it. So it's not like we're taking it off the table for voting. It will still come to a vote, but it will be separate, and we'll be able to identify, you know, the difference between the two.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor of Ms. Rivas' motion to separate, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion fails. All right, so we're back to the main motion, which is approval of the package of textbooks. Is there further discussion on the main motion?
So you're adding something else? Sex?
I'm sorry, Ms. Harris.
I just have a quick question. So basically, what you're asking is that we vote just to find out how the schools are going to pilot the program? Is that what we're asking?
No, he's asking something else. We failed.
No, I mean, for, just point of clarification for.
Oh, what I wanted? Okay, what I wanted was a separate resolution, just the piece on piloting the opportunity, because Dr. Rivera did mention it, that is open to all elementary schools to apply to become a pilot for the core knowledge from kindergarten to second grade. And then I wanted to have like, I said, what would be the criteria? How would you know which school would he select? And then my concerns was that they don't have the ELL and don't have the special ed piece, and what would determine that? And if those children, if let's say an elementary school is selected, and they happen to have children that are on the special ed that are between kindergarten and second grade, if that particular school accepts it as a pilot, then what do you do? So then you have to, since you don't have the piece to service them, you would have to put them out of district and ship them to another elementary school. So I want that to be clarified to me, because like this, if the motion failed now, I don't know if the children under special ed will be serviced. I will not know if every school, elementary school, had the opportunity to apply for this. I will not know what was the criteria. How did they select the school for the pilot? How are they going to monitor the pilot against the journey? How are we're mandated by the state and government to service these children that we're given federal money for? How are we going to monitor that? And this is very important to me, because it's important to all. We all want the children to succeed, and we all talk about it, but we're putting things in place. But then I think that we need to put other things in place to back up this pilot, so this pilot will be successful. So the thing is, now I have no way of knowing. It's all jumped together, and I won't know who's doing what and who's accountable and what's happening with these children. And this is why, this is why I wanted to take it out and vote upon separately for that. And there's nothing mentioned in there at all about a pilot at all. Only in the minutes. Only in the minutes it was mentioned in the pilot. There's nothing mentioned about a pilot. There's no application process. There's nothing mentioned about any elementary school could apply. So I just don't like being said one thing, and then it's not even on paper. It's not even in the minutes from the meeting, when I had a lengthy discussion about it. So I have serious concerns about this, and it doesn't seem right to me that this is what's going on, because my interest is for the success and achievement of these children. That piece is missing. What do you have?
If I could just speak to a couple, the reason why I recommended that we adopt Journeys and that we also adopt the Scholastic Core Knowledge Classroom Readers, and that we also approve the other publishers that would allow us to really have a rich literacy environment in our schools. And then fourth, that we adopt core knowledge / expeditionary learning as a pilot. To be very frank, I believe I stated this, and if it wasn't clear or captured, I'll say it again tonight. The expectation is that, yes, I would administratively develop the procedures, the process, criteria, and put that out and expect that any school that is interested would address a lot of that criteria. And then secondly, that would also expect that these schools submit this on a timely basis, but it would be limited to no more than 2 schools. The intent here, the consistency, the glue that holds all this together is the Common Core standards. the essential training that everybody should have that we don't have in the system, the implementation of intervention protocols and procedures that aren't followed consistently from one school to the next, the implementation of best practices. That's what's going to be consistent from school to school. The curriculum, those are tools. Those are tools that folks use. And the ones that I chose, it's research-based. The studies that we looked at found Journeys, the design did not have the kinds of flaws that the others did. Same thing with Core Knowledge. And the schools, the cities that they're being used in are urban communities, not too different from ours. You're talking in New Jersey, New York City, and elsewhere, where children have achieved. And what's particularly strong about Core Knowledge, for example, is you think about the language gap that exists for so many of our children when they come to kindergarten, and the development of that, of language and content. That's what they're particularly strong about. The author, the person who was involved in direct construction of the Core Knowledge materials actually had a chance to meet with her and hear the process of how that has evolved. So it's a strong program. As an organization, I'm saying to us, we need a comprehensive program. More importantly, we need consistency in terms of our training. And we ought to also be paying attention to development, because this is another good program with proven results that we could perhaps even learn from as we go forward as an organization. So administratively, I would be developing the criteria. That's my role as a superintendent. I would need to be making judgments about which ones get approved, which ones don't get approved, which one or two gets approved, which one doesn't. And then ultimately, they're all going to be accountable for meeting those assessments. The same assessments we're going to be administering. The goals don't change, the assessments don't change. I'll be able to compare and show you progress. If there's one school that chooses Core Knowledge, for all of its kids, I'll be able to show you how those students are doing vis-a-vis everyone else who's not in a Core Knowledge school. So we are going to have consistent measures and ways of tracking that.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Ms. Harris?
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. You mentioned, when I mentioned it the last time that you had the presentation, when I was telling about the ELL piece that was missing, and you said that one year data that you said that you were very impressed by them, and on 1 year data corners that children were getting it right, that the demonstrated skills and things. But were these children, like I said, special ed, the demographic special ed? And then you mentioned these are schools in Washington, D.C. So what my concern is, again, okay, so it doesn't have the ELL piece, and these were English language learners that were proficient, that demonstrated these abilities. But were these children special ed children? And like I said earlier, you know, I'm not questioning what you're saying to me. I'm not questioning that. I just want you to be aware of the concerns I have, which are valid concerns. And it doesn't say anywhere in the wording. I know what you're saying. I know you believe in what you're saying and you're passionate about what you're saying, but it's not in writing. There's nothing in writing to tell me differently that the pilot, that all 12 schools were, you know, I would like a more direct and specific action item that would say, that would read as such. And there is no, if there is some type of data showing that, and also if we are thinking to help all children in the special ed classification, also we're looking at pre-K. So we're looking at pre-kindergarten, because you said that's a very crucial piece. So if we're looking at pre-kindergarten, then we also have to look at birth to 3. Because birth to 3 for children with any type of disabilities that enter our school district, they must have a birth to 3 program, and then they go into a preschool. So then we have to even jump a step further back and say, okay, the birth to 3 group, what are we targeting there? That has to be, we're targeting preschool. But if these children are behind in some way academically, that their studies have to be accommodated or modified with any curriculum that you use. You have to modify the program for them in order for the individual IEPs. Then we must have a focus on birth to 3. So then this is something also. If we're looking at what the problem is, then what is any possible denominator to that problem? So we've already determined that it's preschool education. And we determined it and we believe in it because we have 12 elementary schools. 8 of our schools have preschools, have pre-K in it. There's only 4 schools in elementary in the entire Norwalk School District that doesn't have pre-K. That should be a focus too. We should be focusing on making pre-K in all of our elementary schools. So those last 4, we should be focusing on that. Something should be in the goal about having the birth to 3 concentration, because that would be preschool for any other child or regular child without disabilities. So this is something also that we have to keep in our minds, because it starts, the earlier you get to them that you can reach these children, the better it would be, the more successful we will be as a board. So again, the pilot, there should be something there. I know you will develop the criteria, but then also I would like to have whoever you decide, I want to know the demographics of that school. And I want to know what will be done with those first graders or kindergarteners that cannot partake in that curriculum because that curriculum doesn't contain what they need. So what are we going to do again? Will we out-district them and put them on a bus and send them to another elementary school that can handle that? And again, I just feel concerned with this as how the way is worded here. So that's.
Ms. Harris.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to see if you had anything.
No, I got it. That's it. Okay.
Okay. First of all, I understand how McDahlia feels. There are certain segments of the community that do feel marginalized. So somebody has to speak for them, but they can't be here for themselves. So there are certain segments of the community, and I'm very aware of who a lot of those people are. The question that I have is, you were saying that there's nothing in writing. So I'm wondering if on the record, just in a board meeting, that will suffice for being in writing. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are, but if Dr. Rivera is on the record as saying he's going to do something, or perhaps that, that there will be a special ed piece at some point, maybe that has to be separate. There will be an ELL piece, maybe that has to be separate. Maybe there will be a birth to 3 piece, and maybe that will have to be separate. Is on the record, can on the record suffice as far as?
We've already approved, when we approved the budget, a strategic plan that includes every single thing that Ms. Rivas says we should do.
I got it.
We just approved a overall literacy policy, which includes as one of its items, one of the highest priority items, being more outreach to, parents. I think, we also have to keep in mind the proper role of the board here. We are not the administrators of the school system. He is. We set overall policies, and then he carries them out. So, it would be classic micromanagement, which is what they all tell us you're not supposed to do as board members, for us to get into the weeds on the minutia and details of an application process that Dr. Rivera sets up. We went through a pilot program on Go Math, and no member of this board demanded this kind of micromanagement
And
for
I
Go
understand
Math.
that. I mean, just for the sake of peace, so everybody feels heard. I do understand that. So what I'm asking is, if we get something, maybe something separate that includes the special ed piece, the ELL, the birth to 3, if we get something separate, with that, if we're on record as saying we're going to get something separate, then can we move this along?
we can move it with that or without it. We don't need it to legally move
I
forward.
understand, Mike, I understand.
Yeah, I wanted to say something, Mr. Chairman.
Hold a second. You've spoken multiple times. Let me see if there's any other
You don't have to
comments.
tell me I've spoken multiple times.
Well,
Why did you have to comment that and say, I have spoken multiple times? You could
Any
just
other
say the other person is speaking.
I'm explaining why I'm trying to see if someone else wants to.
I didn't
talk
ask you
before I
why.
get back to
I didn't ask you for a reason why. You didn't have to say I'm speaking multiple times, because I don't think that that's appropriate. So that wasn't called for.
Do you wish to address the board again?
Yes, I would like to address the board again.
You have the floor.
Oh, my goodness. And I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, my God, I forgot what I was gonna say. I can't believe it. Okay. The reason I don't think that, going on record, if that's okay, is because on the minutes, there, I said, it was a lengthy conversation I had inquiring about the elementary schools and how would that work out with the children who are in these grades that are fit under the category of whatever, and how the application process was, and the application will be open to all elementary schools. I don't think it's in the minutes that he said that it's open to all elementary schools at all, and I remember he mentioned it when he did the presentation.
I thought you did mention that it was open to all, but our question was.
It's not in the minutes. It is not in the minutes. It is not written in the minutes. When we get to voting on the minutes, I'm going to say that I would like a copy of the tape, because I distinctly remember what I said, and I remember what the superintendent said. So then, what is the sense in having minutes, and having the minutes, we haven't recorded, so now I need to listen to it, so I'm going to request a copy of the tape. But it's not in there, mentioning that it's an opportunity for all, opening it up to all elementary schools to have an opportunity to pilot this particular program if they have to.
Let me, for the record, say a couple of things. One, I will develop a process, guidelines, procedures that will be distributed to all schools. There will be no more than 2 that will be selected if in fact they apply. So you can make it available to folks, but there'll be no more than 2. There may, even if 2 apply, there may only be 1. There may be none. Depends on whether or not they meet the criteria that I established. That's number 1. Number 2, core knowledge. English language learners and special education students are not excluded from the core knowledge program. In fact, core knowledge has a very strong strand skills, where they actually develop strands and a very strong language skills. The point I made was that teachers of core knowledge may actually have to complement their teaching and make use of other materials that we will also make available to them if they're working with students who might be English language learners who might require different leveled readers to help them gain an understanding of the content. So let me go on record about that. It's not that any child, because of the fact that they may be an English language learner or have a particular disability, would be excluded and sent elsewhere. That's not going to happen. So for the record, I'll say that as well.
Okay, let's just hope it shows up on the minutes.
Okay.
Ms. Murray?
Yes, so Dr. Rivera has offered to go on the record. Part of that document, just looking at the students, if they are not successful, what will be the plan? We know we're going to monitor it, look at the data, but we do need to have a safety net in that case. I know you said there will be a criteria that you'll set, but the fact of it is too, we already know there are certain schools with test scores and a lot of other factors that need to be looked at. So that I can leave, and we can look at that document once it's put together. But also I'd like to see part of that, a safety net process that would be followed if we find that is not meeting all students' criteria. We think we call it thinking out of the box, and that might be fine for some students, but it's not all. And I just need to know, because you can never regain, never regain that time of a student's academic life. So that's one of the things, Dr. Rivera, I'd like to just see added to that.
Well,
without being,
For the record, we should not accept the failure of any student. It is our collective responsibility to make sure that all children achieve that is what this is all about. This is about making sure at a very early grade level and no later than grade 3, every single child is at or above grade level. If we're serious about closing the achievement gap, that's what we're going to have to do. So first and foremost, that is a statement that I want to go on the record for saying. We've got to change the mindset. We've got to change belief systems. We've got to change attitudes. We've got to change the culture of classrooms and schools to create a can-do, will-do kind of environment for our children. That's how we're going to change public schools in Norwalk. Now, in that process, there will be some students who struggle. We know that, right? And when those students are struggling, teachers need to know what those steps are, and it can't be just filling out a form to comply with state guidelines and state regulations. They need to know what are those key processes, what are those strategies. They've got to have information. They've got to have somebody who's working with them, who's monitoring, who's tracking progress of every single child at the school level, and making sure that there are the right interventions in place and that they get executed, and that children don't be left for 2 months and 3 months and 4 months with leveled readers that are below standard, because then they don't have a chance. So that's the kind of change we have to make in this system. Now, there will be some children for whom maybe we need a different program, a completely different program, a completely different opportunity. We've got to be clear on what those programs are. You think about the pyramid of intervention. 80% of our kids ought to be getting it. We ought to have minimally 80% of our kids meeting standard, minimally, if you do it right and do it well. Then you're going to have what they say another 10 to 15% in what they call tier 2 of intervention. You got to make sure those interventions work, but don't let kids get stuck in a particular intervention where they're not making progress. And then ultimately, whether it's a particular a referral for a particular special education support that's needed, or other kinds of individualized instruction and support, those things have to be in place as well. So that's, when I talked about the intervention system, that's what I was after, making sure that no child is forgotten and that every child is paid attention to. But the biggest thing in Norwalk, we've got to change people's belief systems here. We've got to change the culture of what's happening. That's what's going to make a difference. You create relationships, you know your kids, you know their strengths, you know their interests, you know their assets of what they bring. That's half the battle. You make the connections with their families. Then all this other stuff falls into place.
with that said, Dr. Rivera, that's the safety net that I like to see part of that. I mean, all of us, we've been in those conversations, we understand the belief, okay, that all children can learn. They have been spoken over and over again. So as a safety net, that would be part of the document, part of the documentation. That is my request.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Kasimis.
Just to add a little balance to the conversation, Dr. Rivera, when you came in and interviewed with us, one of the things that stood out for me and why I voted for you and supported you as superintendent is that you looked at the risk. The way you approached the decision is you looked at the risk and you made sure that the risk was minimized as much as possible before you ever made a decision. I believe you've done that with picking this curriculum. You know, we've had different groups pick different curriculums, but you took it upon yourself to look at every aspect, and I believe you've reduced every risk, and I know you've talked about it, you've addressed each one, and for me, that's why I support this, because the risks are being reduced as much as possible. Everything has a little risk. With that said, for the past X number of years, K-5 curriculum, to me, has been like a big lazy river. You jump in and wherever the current goes, and a lot of kids have popped their tubes on the way. and have drowned, and they still can't read. I think it's time for us to get out of the lazy river, get a curriculum that's going to do something, move forward, that's going to mean something to our kids. My kids are almost out of the system. But Dr. Rivera, like I said, just wanted a little balance. Thank you for the research that you've done and everything you've put before us so far.
Further discussion? Ms. Rivas?
Oh, sure, Sherelle had her hand up first. Ms. Harris.
Ms. Harris?
I almost think anything that we can come up with is better than what we have now. I definitely agree with that, and I support the program, but I also just want to make sure everybody is hearing what Ms. Murray said, and I think it's basically, if the teachers aren't buying in, all of the teachers, then we just have a document, and I expressed that in an email. The intervention and the detection, that's what I'm really concerned about. If a kid is having a problem, and then they have a problem a month later, and then like 2 days or 2 weeks before the report card comes, it's like, oops, we have a problem. How long did it take to detect that problem? That's my basic concern. I don't want to micromanage, because then your enthusiasm goes down when we start to micromanage, and we can't afford that. We need him to be able to galvanize the teachers and to be able to stand behind this. But that is a big concern of mine, of when the detection happens. The kids can't get that time back. So then they go into middle school. Then it's the middle school's problem. Then they go to high school. I've seen it.
Yep.
So it may not happen to everybody, but it does happen to some segments of the community, and I just do want to make sure that that's understood. So it's you have a great plan here, but it's the detection of the issue and finding out early on so we can help them, so we can help the children.
Further discussion, Ms. Mosby?
Yeah, the children that you're discussing, the at-risk children, the majority of them are the minority kids that are not, that are not reaching the goal level on certain areas. And to sit here and go with a pilot program or anything where you're not really taking into account, I understand you say, okay, we'll go and we'll try something else and whatever, but it really affects the minority kids the most, of the minority, disadvantaged, so forth. And to go into this without, getting community and parents' involvement, which I brought this up before, because I think that the parents need to know what they're going into. That was one of my concerns about the pilot program. I asked what kind of, community and parents' voice was taken into account, and I still haven't really got a satisfactory answer to that. It's just that we're talking about minority children at this point now, because those are the at-risk, most at-risk kids. And I understand, and some of these things that you're putting out there might not be the best fit for these kids, in a sense. And yes, and some of, the kids are doing good, but the ones that are there, the ones that we want to close the achievement gap on, are the minority kids. And if we cannot get this, have something put in place, as Mrs. Murray said, like a safeguard or something that will help them, we are going to lose more of them, in a sense, because we have a big loss right now, but there'll be more out there that will be, thrown into that bucket. And we need to take into account all that, and I know that we say we'll try things out and then, we'll try something else. But we keep going, we'll keep going further and further into the hole if we don't sit here and make sure that we're comfortable with something.
Further discussion? Ms. Harris?
Just one, Craig Keller and others, Dr. Rivera honestly can't be everywhere, but there are people in the district that are going to different communities to engage the parent. There was one at the South Norwalk Community Center, I believe, the other day. There's a program that's coming up at the South Norwalk Library where they are coming into the community to show the parents, how the system works, or they'll be able to go on Chromebooks to see exactly what needs to be done. So that's an opportunity for parents to to speak up and to help work out the kinks as well. I mean, your point is well taken, but I do think the district is trying to reach out to the community.
It depends on what area and who they're reaching out to, because there's still a lot of people out there in the area that have not been reached out. And these are people that, that basically has come to, well, us in general, expressing their concerns. And they still don't feel welcome and, or part of this school system. And that's, I mean, I've recently just talked to a parent who was upset, in which I'll get into, that later, about something that's going on within the school system. So if they're not comfortable or feel that they can come, then we have a bigger problem. And we have to sit there, like you said earlier, that, we are here, in a sense, all of us are elected officials. We're here to represent, well, I'm here, basically, I'm hoping that everyone else is here to represent all children, in a sense. But if people come, then we need to be there to try to voice their concerns here at the table as well. And I know we have like areas where you said we have this, that, we have this forum here, we have this, but there's people out there that are not comfortable in certain type of forums unless they feel that their voice is going to be heard. Because you can have whatever you want at any place, but if people come and express their opinions and it's not being welcome or taken into consideration, they're not going to come again.
I'm just wondering if there's a way that maybe you can contact Craig or some of the others and maybe have them come to a certain area or a certain church or something like that where people will feel comfortable and they can come out and do the presentations there.
I'll be the first to offer my church.
There you go.
I'm right in the center of town.
They should feel comfortable coming to the board. That's what the Board of Ed is here for. They should feel, I don't want to take on the responsibility of just me. This is a board here that should be representing everyone in this community. And they should be able to come to this board here and feel that whatever we put out there. So that means the responsibility of opening up to people, it rests on the board. It does not rest on just me alone, because I'm okay and fine with getting out there, but this board here has to get that same mentality and thinking in order for people to feel comfortable, since we're dealing with Norwalk Public Schools and the children are in our school system.
Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I just have two things to say. I don't know if, well, I didn't ask this question before, it just occurred to me. In Silvermine, would they be using this curriculum because they have the mano a mano program? And if so, how would that impact the mano a mano program?
Yes, they would be using Journeys unless they applied and we went through the process. But they would be implementing that program citywide. They'd all go through the same training. Journeys actually does have a fully bilingual, fully Spanish component. But I have also been involved with Mano a Mano, and we are going through some programmatic changes that we're going to be making there to improve it. So that is actually in the works right now.
Okay. Also, can we add additional wording to this resolution?
You can propose an amendment if you would like.
I forgot where we were. I'm sorry, I forgot where we were on that point. Somebody else had it, but I forgot where.
So many things happen here, so see if we can add some wording.
We're on the main motion.
Main motion.
I have a question. Dr. Rivera, I also heard, I attended the core knowledge curriculum at the South Norwalk Community Center as well. But that's why I heard by around 6 people that the decision for the pilot was made, that it was going to be Rowayton and Columbus.
No.
So then I said, how is that possible when I don't know anything?
No.
Okay, so there has been
No decision, and
All right, okay. So now, it's back to the wording. Let me see. Do you have any suggestions? To include. So there would be nothing there to specify that it's a pilot?
Yeah, at the moment, that would be an administrative decision for the superintendent.
What would?
Yes, there is a
What would?
isn't it?
What would?
No, the resolution just
No, it doesn't
authorizes
say
the use of
pilot.
textbooks.
For K2.
The resolution is only for the textbooks.
Yeah, and then it's up to the discretion of the superintendent to implement the program.
I thought we just did the textbooks. We did the textbooks before. This is something else. We did the textbooks before. And we did the textbooks before, and you told me
No.
that this is the sixth one?
This is 6, this is the textbooks. 5 was the overall policy, which we already adopted.
Okay, but within the backup paperwork, it says here about having the core knowledge in K through 2, right?
As an option.
Yes.
But it doesn't specify that it's a pilot in the paperwork.
It doesn't have to,
Why not?
because once we've
Because it
adopted
is.
Once we've adopted the textbooks, it is up to the administration of the school system to decide how to use them, as it always has been. You know, when we adopted the Go Math curriculum, there was no separate vote on a pilot. The administration administered the pilot and then carried it out further. You don't have to have a board resolution. That's the board getting into the minutia of the superintendent's job.
No, but we have the language art and the math, the two separate things. Language art and math are the two separate things. And it was said publicly that there would be an open opportunity for all public schools, for all elementary schools to apply. What is the problem with just having something say that?
You can propose an amendment if you want to. And then we'll vote on it. Ms. Mosby?
Yes, the middle school administrators, were their input part of this discussion? Because they are, again, going back to that feeder school that will be getting these children when they get to that level. And I really haven't heard too much on the administrators and on the middle school level, and what their feedback is on with these programs, or getting a pilot program that's going to go up into their schools. And I'm just curious.
Yeah, I did not involve middle school administrators. It was pre-K 5, and I limited it to that. I did send the principals a copy of the recommendations, and I did receive emails back from 2 or 3 saying this is great, thank you, but I did not involve them in the process.
Ms. Murray?
Yes, for the math curriculum, Go Math, we didn't have this problem, this conversation, and that was the reason because we had one math program. I think that wasn't, am I correct on that? Did we have the pilot? Did we have anything else that was done with the?
Well, it was going to be either the pilot or stay with the existing program.
Right, but it
a
was
test of
anything,
6
it wasn't
versus 6
well.
schools.
So we didn't have this conversation at that time, and I think that makes a difference on what you're hearing tonight. That's, keeps us in discussion. Because we do know how important it is to have consistency, and that was addressed at one point. I think Ms. Mosby addressed it at the curriculum meeting, that the value of having all our elementary schools and all students being able to move up and be on the one program. That's always been something that we've had to struggle with. But once again, that's already been stated. But I was just thinking that with Go Math and the math program, we didn't have this type of discussion, and it wasn't necessary because it was one curriculum, one program.
One program on the team.
Further discussion, Ms. Mosby?
Okay, although I strongly support the Journey curriculum, I have reservation about the pilot program, and still have some concerns and need more answers before I will support it. And because of that, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Further discussion? Okay, well, let me make a couple of points. First off, I think that the suggestion that we need to have a safety net is certainly a good idea, and it should be particularly applied to the Journeys program, since the scientific data available to us shows that Core Knowledge is a stronger program than Journeys. So to whatever extent that we want to provide a safety net for the Core Knowledge schools, we should certainly have an even stronger one for the Journeys schools. I'm glad that Dr. Rivera corrected the thought that we might have to ship kids out of schools if they choose the Core Knowledge. In the studies that were done of the Core Knowledge schools in New York City, and I emailed these to all the board members a couple of weeks ago, 12.5% of the students at the Core Knowledge schools were ELL, 17.5% were special ed, 72% were on free and reduced lunch, 84% were Black and Hispanic. In the first year's results, on the Woodcock-Johnson reading test, the kids at the Core Knowledge schools had 6 times greater literacy gains than students at the similar comparison schools that were used in New York. Their decoding skills were substantially higher. On all achievement levels, literacy gain, average fall to spring gain, Core Knowledge schools were 3 times higher than the control schools. In the second year's study, there was a 2 times greater literacy gain for the second graders. On a comparison with Reading First schools, which was another one that the New York City school tested, the Core Knowledge kids displayed 6 times greater literacy gains. In the third year of the study, Core Knowledge schools, again, more than double the gains at demographically similar comparison schools, higher overall Terra Nova scores, in fact, higher on every single measure that they checked. And I shared all this data with the whole board a couple of weeks ago. By contrast, the study that was done on Journeys, that was reported to us, and which the board also received, said that these data do not constitute evidence of effectiveness. It is not possible to attribute any change of rates of proficiency to the use of Journeys. So if we're concerned about Core Knowledge, we better be more concerned about Journeys, because the data isn't as strong for Journeys as it is for Core Knowledge. I'm not concerned about either, because as Dr. Rivera has pointed out, the choice of the curricular materials is somewhere around number 3 or 4 or 5 in the priority list of what we're trying to do here. The literacy program as itself, which is this amazingly comprehensive program that is thought out, that includes pre-K, that includes reaching out to the community, that includes doing all sorts of unique things to try to generate more parental involvement, particularly with the minority community, is so far beyond anything that's been attempted in the school district that I'm just amazed at what Dr. Rivera and the principals and teachers and experts that he's been working on this with for the better part of 6 months have put together. I love Mr. Kasimis's description of what we've been doing in K-5 for decades, the lazy river and kids popping their tubes. This is a real inflection point for the school system. We can vote against this, which is a vote to maintain the status quo, keep doing things the way we've always done them. And as has been described at length tonight, what we've been doing hasn't worked. Or we can say it's time to take a dramatic step forward, not settle for incremental little changes, make a big change, work some innovation into it. Yeah, take some chances, but we're taking chances by using Journeys just as much as we're taking chances with pilots for Core Knowledge. And make sure, as Artie also, I think, very effectively made the point, that anytime you try something new, there are going to be risks. An intelligent person does not say, I'm never going to do anything because there may be risk. If that's what you're going to do, you might as well hide in your basement for the rest of your life. An intelligent person takes careful risks, calculated risks. And if it doesn't work everywhere we try it, then we try something else. We try to continue to move forward. And, I think this is probably the most important vote for the board since I've been here. This is a real chance for us to say, as Dr. Rivera, he made a great speech at the convocation of the teachers, and he was talking about, his encounter of the Norwalk Way, which is typically, well, we've always done it that way, see, so that's why we're going to do it. And he made a great speech, and he said, well, there has to be a new Norwalk Way now. The new Norwalk Way is we're not going to concentrate on the negative, we're going to concentrate on the positive. We're not going to concentrate on the downside, we're going to concentrate on the upside. We're not going to keep looking backwards, we're going to look forwards. And this is the real opportunity for us to leave the past behind and move forward. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. There's probably going to be stumbles along the way. There's going to be mid-course corrections that people are going to have to make. Even NASA makes mid-course corrections. But NASA also doesn't sit around and say, well, we shouldn't push the launch button. It's time to push the launch button and send this thing flying. So I hope the board will support this motion. Mr. Chiramonte.
Thank you. Just want to say, Superintendent Rivera, I am astounded, I am fascinated by the program that you want to bring forth. I saw the evidence, the data that Mike was talking about, and I think it's a fresh new approach that we need to take. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, as long as I've been on this board, I've been hearing about, we have to reach out to the parents who are not heard, they're not heard. We heard a mother come up here tonight saying her first child, she never got involved. How are we going to do? We're going to go home to her house and drag her to these meetings? She wasn't involved. And again, why would I want to hear from somebody who's not involved in the school system? They have to show some concern for the education of their kid. Okay? And if they're not coming forward for it, is that the kind of person I want to hear input coming in? I don't. I want to see proven facts, what's happening, to bring a better education to our kids. We are failing. The United States is failing compared to the rest of the world. I'm tired of doing things the same way. That's one of the reasons I supported Dr. Rivera coming here, and I wholeheartedly support this program. And I thank you for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Tremonti. Ms. Rivas, then Ms. Mosby.
Give me a minute. Go ahead, not sure.
Yeah, I agree that.
Ms. Mosby.
Yes, okay, thank you. I agree that this is big, and that is why we have to make sure that it's done right for all children. Sorry, all children, and not let it fall on the backs of the kids that are considered at risk. And as I stated before, it should fall back consistency, and definitely make sure that all children are on the same page. And with minimal input from the feeder schools, I do have concerns. And I just wanted to make sure that's out there. I understand about where some people may feel that because people are not at the table, that doesn't mean that we have to sit there and take it out on their children. It is our job in the Norwalk Public School system to make sure that all children are educated. And whether or not the parents are at the table or not, it is our responsibility as Board of Ed members representing all children that these kids get some type of education.
I agree with that 100%. That's why I support this proposal. Ms. Rivas.
I'm sorry, I wasn't feeling too good. Okay, you said you emailed the board the information on this. Well, seeing as how, again, I wasn't able to see that, but I've heard what you said. Are there any school districts in Connecticut that have used the core knowledge that we can compare apples to apples as opposed to apples to oranges? Because you have, although they are urban districts, we talked about Washington, D.C. We talked about, you mentioned New York City, New York. You mentioned New York. I mean, how many other school districts within the state of Connecticut are using the core knowledge pilot or not pilot, or the core knowledge at all, K through 2, and some type of data that we could compare to within another school district within Connecticut, because although the Common Core is national, I mean, we are part of Connecticut state education. So with the commissioner and as well. So I would like to know, are there any other school districts in Connecticut that have shown the data and the successful gains that has been done with this type of curriculum? Or are we the only and the first people, the first city to approve this curriculum? And if so, why hasn't another school district in Connecticut approved the curriculum in the state of Connecticut? So are there any schools?
I don't know if there's any schools that are using Journeys either.
No, but the data that you got and the information that you submitted to the board via email that you read, you were making comparisons and saying these were the leads they have, and you gave the percentages in the state of New York. So is there a reason why we have no data in the state of Connecticut with a school district that we can make a comparison? Because a lot of times with the CMT scores and the scoring, we're always comparing Norwalk to the state scoring, or Norwalk to Fairfield County, Norwalk to Stafford, Norwalk to Greenwich. So is there another school district in Connecticut that has the data on the achievements of their students using this curriculum?
I don't know. And I don't know if there's one on Journeys either.
So how did you get the information? Did you just search New York, or it was?
This information was published by the New York City Department of Education Research and Policy Support Group. It's a scientific study. The results show, clear statistical significance. The P ratios on most of these numbers are less than 0.001. It was a 3-year comprehensive scientific study in New York. There aren't a lot of scientific studies of any of these programs available. For instance, Journeys itself doesn't have any studies that show its effectiveness at all. At least with core knowledge, we do have the New York City study that shows its effectiveness.
Right, if it's so effective, what I'm saying, it's excellent. The percentages you gave were, outstanding. That's been incredible. But I mean, in a state like Connecticut, that we're educationally based, and we want to make sure that all our children in the entire state achieve. Why is it that?
They're not as smart as we are. Connecticut has one of the largest achievement gaps in the nation. One of the largest achievement gaps in the nation. So I'm trying to advance a whole set of recommendations and a curriculum that has been implemented elsewhere with very similar demographics. 12% ELL, 17%, maybe 2 or 3 percentage points higher in terms of special ed, but with very similar demographics in terms of children and makeup. To change that, that's what this is all about. This is about changing that. The rest of the Connecticut I don't care about. I care about Norwalk.
Okay. I care about Norwalk as well. So, but the special ed piece has to be in writing here. You have to include that into the resolution or something, into the goals or whatever you're doing, objectives.
I'm sorry, Ms. Keys.
I want to, first of all, applaud Dr. Rivera. I know that it's been like a 24/7 job for you for the past couple of months, just really doing the research, looking at the data, and I fully support this, moving it forward. And I think we need to adopt this. I think we're always going to take a risk, no matter what, but I think this is a risk well worth taking. I'm a product of Newark Public School. My husband, my kids, family, friends. We've had issues in Newark Public Schools for years and years and years, and I think it's time to adopt this because I think change can be scary at times. I mean, I think you can back away from it, but I think something like this, we need to absolutely 100% move forward on it, and I think we'll see a positive outcome at the end. And like Mike L. had said, it might not work right away. We might have some kinks in it that we have to kind of look at and resolve and maybe approach it in a different way, but I think we need to move forward on this 100%.
Okay. Ms. Murray?
I think, Dr. Rivera, that you understand what we're talking about here at the table. You might be tired of it because you've had consultants come in, you've turned this on the side, on its head, looking at it, okay? And for me, I don't want to see history repeat itself, and that's what we're all feel. It's just the fact of that one of the most precious prizes of any parent is their children. Whether they are attending meetings for whatever reason or not feeling they're comfortable, whatever the reason is, we are the elected officials and we are responsible for all students in Norwalk. So the conversation doesn't always have to take place in agreeing on one or the other, but we should all agree that we care about all students and the belief that they all can learn. My questioning and wanting that safety net, it's only because, you're right, I don't want to see any child fail. And that has been happening. We have a history of that, and we do need to change it. So I just want to be very clear about that, not staying in the same place and saying that we're going to stick our head in the sand. And I just can't just be that cavalier about the fact that we need to try something. It's just the fact that we need to be very careful. And I know that is part of your concern, but that is part of our concern as a board as well. At least it's part of my concern as a board member. So therefore, there will be the questions. That's why we're elected to be here, to turn things over and take a really close look, because we're talking about the education of students in Norwalk schools. Okay? So that I want to be very clear on it. Does it mean lack of support? But it does mean that we do have to be very careful in understanding that we are responsible for all children. Okay? So I just want to be very clear and put that on record for you. And the safety net, yes, I do believe we need to have it. And I heard Mr. Lyons speak about journeys as well as for core knowledge. And I would believe whatever document you put out, that would be part of it. But the fact of it is, I just know that we know the history of Norwalk. Yes, we have an achievement gap. We've been working on that prior to you coming. You walked into what we have here. So not thinking that you have not put in the best effort, because I said I know you've had consultants looking at this, trying to get it right. We just need to flush this out a little more, and I've heard that in tonight's discussion, and look forward to seeing it in writing, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I just.
Mr. Rivas.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Barbas?
Please have a vote.
Are you, well,
I just wanted to just make a comment about.
okay, can you make this one?
Yes,
We'll
yes.
wrap it up?
Yeah, we want to wrap it up. I just want to say, as a board member, as a parent, and you know, I got involved with the board because the school district failed me as a parent. The school district did not reach out to me as a community. The school district did not do good to my children either. So I decided to get involved and see that the same thing that's going on with me and how the school district has failed my children, how I can help others. And I just don't say this to say, what about the special ed? What about the ELL? What about, I just want to make sure that the experiences that I still to this day encounter, which is ridiculous, that I still go through, I just want to make sure that it doesn't happen. You know, we do defend all children, and we stand up for all children, all children who are poor, all families, and reaching out. I know from firsthand experience that it's not working. And it's difficult in the situation I'm in. Because I congratulate the board members who have children that have high honors. It's wonderful to feel that. I would like to feel that too. I want my children helped in school too. But it's difficult for me because of the position I'm sitting in. I can't say help my child because I'm a board member. The reason why I speak like this, I'm speaking from my heart that parents are not accepted in schools. I have not been accepted. When people they don't recognize me, they don't put the name with the face, but it shouldn't have to be that way. Oh, she's a board member, let's treat her this way. No, I'm in the community, I'm part of Norwalk, I pay my taxes. My children go to school. I want my children to be successful. I am a caring parent. I go speak out in schools. I am an advocate for my child. But the thing is, I'm not doing this for people to get upset. I'm doing this because I want to make sure it's done right. Because my children are a product of what is not working. And I can speak on that. I can speak on being discriminated and talked too badly in schools. I can talk about how administration has not helped. I can tell you how special ed is. I can tell you how ELL. I can tell you how curriculum and how things are not being reached out. And that's why I wanted to make sure that, that you understand why I'm passionate about this. Because it can't continue to happen this way because it's just, I just want to make sure it's right. I'm not micromanaging, but as the superintendent and as our employee, you need to listen to how I'm feeling and how other parents are feeling as well. It's not like I'm telling you what to do, but maybe these ideas that I have might help the system move forward in the right direction. That's why I question the curriculum and what's happening so I could compare one thing to another. Now we could call the vote. I've said what I had to say. I feel better.
Ms. Mosby?
Thank you.
Although we can sit here and we can have arguments for pros and cons one way or the other, the bottom line is that if you have not walked in that person's shoes, then you can't judge that person. And we need to sit here and really think about that. Unless you actually walked in that person's shoes and experienced what they experienced, even when it comes down to a vote, you shouldn't judge a person based on that. And because we're not going to, it's okay to disagree, it's okay to agree to disagree, or because we all are individuals and we're going to have our own opinions. But the fact is that we all claim that we're here for all children and we want to make sure that our kids are taken care of, and we need to take that into consideration. And again, if you haven't walked in certain people's shoes, don't sit here and try to judge someone unless you actually have been in their shoes.
Ms. Harris?
Migdalia, I totally understand you because I've been where you are wholeheartedly. I've been where you are. Feeling alone, unsupported, I've been there. I'm going to make the choice to trust Dr. Rivera. Dr. Rivera, that's a big responsibility. I'm going to trust you, so I'm going to make the motion that we pass this, knowing that Dr. Rivera will do the very best that he can and that he will address most of our issues.
All right, shall we proceed to a vote? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve the textbooks that's been made, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? Abstentions? 2 abstentions. That's 7 votes in favor, 2 abstentions, no opposed. Motion carries. All righty then. 7A, 2014-2015 school calendar. Dr. Rivera.
This is a calendar that I'd worked with Mr. Dodona on, and he is also home ill yesterday and today. So, but I'm very familiar with it. It's a calendar for 2014-2015. It basically is a 181-day calendar. The last day of school, if you will, is a Friday, June 12th. There are no makeup days built into it, so that if there are snow days, they would begin into that last week of, not the last week, beginning the 15th of June through the third week of June. Yeah, through the third week of June, which would be the 19th. and God forbid, we have more snow days beyond that, that would then extend into the next week. It still maintains, there's essentially not very many changes from this year in terms of Veterans Day, where we will be in session, but observing Veterans Day activities here. The February recess will be, again, the Friday and Monday President's Day, and the 17th floating holiday, and Stamford is doing the same. There are one or two other districts doing the same. So I have shared this calendar with our union partners and received input and made some adjustments, and calendar we have in front of us is what we're recommending for next year. There aren't substantive changes to this year's.
Okay. So this was just informational. We'll vote on this at a
Right.
subsequent meeting?
Sure.
Okay. All right, 7B, February 2014 financial report. Mr. Rudel?
Through the first 8 months of the year, we've spent $94.7 million against an adjusted budget of $164.3. So we have spent approximately 58% of our budget, well underneath the theoretical rate of 67% of our budget. And through the first 8 months, we are still well in target to finish within our budget.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Rudel? Ms. Rivas?
Now, is there a situation happening with the oil? Because earlier we had transfers from different sections to the oil account.
Correct.
Are we using additional fuel that we didn't
Due to
expect?
the cold nature of the weather this year, we budgeted 246,000 gallons of fuel oil, or heating oil, I should say. We've used approximately 236,000 gallons of heating oil. We typically stop receiving shipments of oil around April, so the transfer that was approved today was to carry forward any potential fuel oil funds that we would need for March and April.
Into the fuel account?
Into the fuel account, correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, that'll do it. Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Next is committee and representative reports. Why don't we start tonight with Ms. Murray, Finance. Anything to report?
Just that our next meeting is coming up Wednesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. I think that's because we're just coming out of, came out of,
Well, you looked over the transfers policy. Actually,
And
you'll be getting the budget adjustment report from Dr. Rivera with the insurance savings at your committee meeting.
it just came out, so we're
Yeah,
getting that.
you'll get that at the committee meeting to review.
Okay.
Mr. Kasimis?
No, sir.
No report? Okay. Curriculum, we've now completed the adoption of the entire Common Core for English and mathematics, which fascinates me when I read all these articles about people in Hartford trying to put the brakes on it and all these towns that don't know what they're doing. We're done. So I think at our next curriculum meeting, I'm just going to ask for sort of the implementation plan for this K-5. We can start talking about, how to set up the pilot program and whatnot. And also general report on how the mathematics curriculum implementation is going forward that we approved last year. Ms. Keys? anything?
Yeah. Policy meeting will be next Tuesday, and just reviewing more things about the strategic plan for Dr. Rivera.
Okay.
And I'll have a full report the following meeting.
Great. Negotiations.
Negotiations will be meeting with the custodians in executive session shortly. And I think we've had, the ESG contract has been outstanding, and they had made a request of us, and it wasn't, whatever. It took us a while to get all the data of how we wanted to, implement a salary increase, if it should be a percentage increase or it should be a fixed dollar amount per each member. Anyway, we finally have sorted this out, and I will be notifying them tomorrow. I was just waiting to hear from Dr. Rivera to finalize, and that is now done. And if you recall with the NFEP, we did agree, and we voted at the last board meeting on wages and benefits, but there is the kind of upgrades and the reconfiguring the positions that we will start negotiating, I think, next week. Next Thursday is the first meeting. And that's all that's on the agenda right now.
Okay. Ms. Harris, any liaison reports?
The Norwalk Education Foundation, under Gloria Tanofsky, is working with Craig Kreller, is that Craig Kreller, the district math specialist, to go around to the different communities to talk about the Go Math and the Common Core implementation. So if anybody's interested in having the presentation come to their community or to their organization, you can contact either Craig or Gloria.
Okay. Mr. Chiramonte?
We're meeting with Superintendent Rivera, and we'll be having a facilities meeting next week.
Okay.
Mike, I should mention one other thing.
I'm sorry, yes.
I've been to a couple CES meetings, and I am a little behind schedule to get an email off to Superintendent Rivera and Mr. Dodona. There is this, in Hartford, these brainiacs decided to set a common calendar, and this did not come from the education department, but came from a completely different, I forget exactly where it came from, but it's to make everything more efficient. And so they're going to force a common calendar down our throats. It is optional for 14-15. It will be mandatory for 15-16. Snow days will be exempt, obviously, and we'll have 5 kind of floating days we can choose, but they're going to kind of try to force everyone to have PD on Election Day, the same Christmas break, the same winter break, the same spring break. And so needless to say, it's a little controversial. I'll have a fuller report at the next board meeting.
Okay. Ms. Keys?
I'm sorry, can I just go back, if it's possible, to the calendar? I just have a couple questions. I know we discussed it, but do you mind if I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know, Dr. Rivera, that this is just a draft copy and we're just discussing it now, but the last day right now would be June 12th, is that correct?
Right,
Friday?
that's
Okay.
correct.
My concern with the weather that we've had, especially this past winter, the winter that we're experiencing now, that if we have inclement weather, snowy days, that it could take us through, possibly, I'm hoping, knock on wood, this wouldn't happen, but let's say it took us through the 24th or 25th. When we start going into the end of June, my issue is kids, I don't want to say they check out, but it's the end of the month, it's summer, I don't know how much learning is going on by the end of the month in June. So are we thinking of possibly, if we have inclement weather, snow days, if we go towards the end of June, if we could take it out of April? I mean, do we have something set that if we go too far out, that if we could start removing days from our April vacation?
Well, right now, obviously, the 5 days would be in the following week,
Right.
and then there would be the week of the 22nd to the 26th represents another 5 day, which is 10 days. And then there's 2 more, so you have about 12
Right.
days. So there's 2 issues here. One is, can we go back and look at April? Well, that's the kind of decision that we would need to completely go back and have a rethink on that, because those are the kinds of things that need to be dealt with up front. If there's X number of days taken by a certain date, here's where they'll come from. We looked at that. We felt it was too complex right now. I hear what you're saying, and we also had some discussions about the month of June and the very concern that you raised, that typically that month follows testing, that, I even had a conversation about using that as an opportunity to do something unique and different around project-based learning and engaging schools in some different types of activities. So I hear what you're saying. I don't have an answer for you today. Right now, our best recommendation was to lay this out.
And I'm glad that we did, and it's
Yeah.
ahead of time, and it's ahead of schedule, but I think in this case, I've had in the past parents ask, are we going through the end of June, are we taking out of April, what are we, it
Yeah,
just leaves
yeah.
a lot of confusion, I think, in the minds of parents, and I think for us, we need to be proactive versus reactive. And I
Right.
think if we have something in place that's in writing stating, well, if we go past June 24th, if we have snow days, we will start taking, something that's in place that's in writing.
So people would know,
So people know, and-
as opposed to waiting
Well-
for us
Yeah,
to
and
make
it's
a
always
last-minute
that,
decision.
what are we doing? What's happening? We have snow day. teachers want to schedule vacation time, families want to schedule vacation time, and it's always been what ifs.
Okay, in my former district, in the calendar that we published, we would actually lay out the makeup days. 1, this is the day. 2, this is the day. 3, this is the day. Everybody would see what they are. And there would be times when that makeup, the first makeup day, might actually be like a February 17th. But there's a lot. If the board is telling me that you want me to go back and look at the calendar, let me know now, and then I'll come back and give you. But this represents, my best thinking right now as of today, and there's so many other things we got to deal with. So
I get that. I just
yeah,
wanted to put that out there.
I got you. I mean, I don't know what to tell you right now. My recommendation was that we look at those 10 days for snow days. We did in last year's calendar say if 5 days are used, I think it was by November 1, then there would be certain days in February that would be lost. So, I don't know where to go with this.
Ms. Murray?
Thank you. I heard Mr. Barber speak about being the CES rep at a meeting. I remember Ms. Rivas had asked about that slot and how many we had. Could we follow up with that? And, because I don't remember any getting back. I think she put it to the chair at a meeting. Am I right, Amy?
We have 2 seats on that.
Would you please look into that? Mr. Lyons?
Yes, I will.
Oh, okay, all right. That's it, that was it. When I heard his report, it reminded me, the request was made, and I didn't hear feedback. Thank you.
All right, next is comments from board members, board member announcements.
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
By myself and Mr. Tremonti and I have, were appointed to the Mayor's the Mayor's Energy and Environment Task Force. Their first meeting was this past Monday, it was yesterday. And we have our staff person, George Giannini, there. Not going to get into all the details of it. There were other departments that were there and actually looking at ways of saving. And they're looking at solar at this point in time and looking at evaluating, looking at the other facilities in the city. So, hour and a half, but that's the short end of how we attended last night.
Okay, thank you. Other board member announcements? Ms. Keys?
I first of all want to say hallelujah that we have our website up, and I want to thank Brenda Williams, because she has done. It's very user-friendly. I've navigated, very easy to use. I love the pictures of the kids. It's just, we've needed it for so long. I mean, we really, you look at the old website, and you could still get into the old website, and the new one, and compare both, it's just a dramatic difference. It's a major difference, and I think families will be really happy to go in and just navigate. And it's very easy, again, to navigate. So I applaud you, and thank you so much. Long time coming. So thank you. Les Mis Zarabla, or Les Mis, I should say, I can't pronounce it at this time at 11 o'clock, is going to be showing, I believe, end of March, beginning of April at Brian McMahon High School. So again, we have these fabulous performances from our middle schools, our high schools. They really do an outstanding job. I mean, I've said this over and over again, it's like a Broadway play. I mean, you go and you pay a minimal amount and you see the hard work, the effort, the drive that these kids have when they work on these performances. So again, I highly urge all of you, if you can, to attend it. It's right here in Norwalk. You don't have to go to New York City, go right to Norwalk and see what the kids are doing. Cinderella is going to be playing at West Rocks Middle School, and that is coming up, I believe, the first weekend in April. I think it's a Friday night and Saturday performance. And I know with our website, I think Les Mis is also up there. And it's great that we have this website, because as board members, we can mention it, but it's great that parents that might not be able to see this or read the minutes can actually go on our website and look to see what we have. So again, I urge everybody to attend these performances, and there'll be more coming.
Thank you. Any other announcements? No, okay, then I'm sorry, Ms. Rivas.
Yes.
Yes, I would like, I would like a request, I would like to have report 1090, September 2012 to June 15th, to June 2013. We were given these reports before, so I'm missing September 2012 to June 2013. Report 1090, daily percentage, absent and tardy report, that's per all 19 schools. If no one knows what I'm referring to, this is what, I have one of them here. You could pass this down over there to see that. I would like this report, please.
I guess that's something that the system must generate.
If it's readily available and something we generate, we will make it available.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, jokey. All right. Next item on the agenda is number 8, approval of minutes for March. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Mosby.
I want a copy as well.
Mm-hmm.
The whole board, but the whole board, the board. The whole board will get that?
Yes.
Yes. Which one did I give them?
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for March 4, 2014. Mr. Kasimis moves. Is there a second? Mr. Chiaramani seconds. Any changes, corrections? Mr. Kasimis?
Page 9, it should say Hewlett-Packard, not Hewlett-Package. I have another one. Page 12, it says Mr. Kasimis stated that he attended Black History Month events at Columbus only, not Jefferson.
Okay.
And also, just below that, approval of minutes, as Mr. Kasimis noted on page 4, Penn should be deleted before Williams. That was not me. I don't know who made that. Somebody noted it.
All right. So you'll just say a board member noted.
A board member.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other changes?
Yes, I love.
Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I didn't read it, but someone read it to me, but like there's a lot of, like I said earlier, there's in-depth, I was really, had concerns along different areas, and I don't, it doesn't reflect my concerns on the minutes. So perhaps if I can have a copy of the audio tape of the minutes, or maybe a better summary of the when I mentioned about the elementary schools, and there's nothing there about mentioning elementary schools in the entire minutes, and I think that was an important piece that was left out. So I don't know how you're gonna do this, or can I
Well, you know,
listen to the minutes, or?
Well, the minutes aren't supposed to be verbatim.
It's not verbatim, it's not even a hint, it's not even one word that says anything about me mentioning opportunity. A word opportunity is not verbatim, or open elementary schools, or what will be used as a criteria. I think that's an important word. You know, a couple of things that I think are, because it doesn't have anything reflecting what I was concerned about as far as the selection process, or anything mentioning about the pilot, or about, as far as that goes. It doesn't even say, I mentioned the word pilot. You know, something that's a true representation, more or less. I don't want verbatim, but at least a couple of things that were important, to me, and it's not in there, because I cannot tell you word for word what I said, but I will tell you that there are important pieces missing to this that I think should be included in the minutes. I'm not, you know, I don't know.
Can't imagine the hours we wasted on that.
Well, can we make Ms. Rivas a copy of the tape?
I imagine, huh?
That's
That
you
shouldn't
guys,
be a
right?
problem.
The guy in the booth.
Okay, let's see if we can have our IT people make a copy. Do you want a tape, or do you want it on a CD?
As long as I can hear it, I don't care how walkie-talkie.
What do you have at home? What do you have at home? Do you have a CD player?
She
or a
can go
tape
into your
player?
office. I have Sinclair, I have a computer, I can listen.
Let's see.
CD, we'll put it on a
Let's see
CD.
let's see if we can burn that tape onto a CD and provide it to Ms. Rivas.
Yes.
All right. I think we're all, Ms. Harris?
One other correction.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
Page 11 on the Early Childhood Committee, the very last sentence where it says she added that there was good press coverage and community engagement. I believe Mr. Lyons said that there was good press coverage.
Okay.
on
And Mr.
page-
Barbas?
On page 6 at the bottom of the page, it said, basically, I need to rephrase it because it got confused, but I think I should read. Mr. Barbas said he was wondering how the new ELA curriculum will work with the wireless generations assessments, period.
Where's that?
The bottom paragraph on page 6.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of jumbled, and I think, I don't know, I either wasn't clear, but I just figured I'd clarify it. You know, I was just asking like how the ELA curriculum would work with wireless generation. Those assessments would help us.
Okay.
And then on page 12, there are 4 board members that I was complimenting,
Okay.
not 3.
Excuse me.
Ms. Mosby?
Going back to this rephrasing, unless it's on the video, the recording, you can't just go and just rephrase something from a meeting that.
I know, but just read what it says in it. It doesn't make any sense.
I know, so why don't we listen to it and put
Oh,
what it
you know what?
really
It
needs?
doesn't matter, Shirley. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna waste my time. It's 11 o'clock at night. Forget it.
Well, that's fine.
Drop the change.
Yeah, well, okay.
Well,
Just
actually,
you
we-
cannot change the minutes.
Whatever. I don't care.
We routinely make corrections to minutes without having to go. Mike, we routinely make changes to minutes without having to go back to the tape. That happens all the time. There's no reason that we have to go to the tape in order to do that. Of course we can do that.
We just want to
So-
make sure that whatever is on that tape is what we're, you can't sit here, because if that's the case, then I can come in anytime and I want to change something and.
If you're
put it
making
on
a
the tape.
technical correction, yes. I mean, if you're trying to, we had a member that used to come in and wanted to put whole paragraphs
Oh,
in there,
no.
and we didn't do that.
No,
But if you see, your name is spelled wrong, or, there's obvious error, I didn't make that motion, somebody else did, we routinely approve things like that.
I know,
without
but
having to
he's
go to the tape.
trying to rephrase something, so that's not an obvious error. I can see, his name was spelled wrong, and he's trying to correct there, so my name's spelled wrong.
Well, it says,
But just
will
go-
wireless generation assessments that will be tracked. That's clearly grammatically incorrect. So he's just trying to correct the grammar,
Well, that's not what I heard. He said he wants to rephrase it, so,
to correct the grammar.
well, I'm just putting it out
Well, I
there.
can listen to the CD and then tell everybody what you said.
Yes.
I'll just go back.
Sure you will.
Yeah, I will.
Vital
That's-
importance.
Let's do it right.
All right, motion's on the floor to accept the minutes as amended. All in favor?
Oh, that's a minute.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Minutes are approved.
Can I go back and make an announcement real quick?
Why, sure.
I have to do it because I know we're all stressed out and we're going through all these changes over here. And I'm already emotional anyway. I just wanted to mention, and my daughter watches the channel, educational channel, and it's her birthday today, and I can't spend time with her, so I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter Jessica. I know she's watching, so I'm sorry I'm not home yet. So happy birthday.
All right, Chair would now entertain a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of documents relating to collective bargaining agreements. Moved by Mr. Kasimis, second by Ms. Keys. All in favor? Okay, we're in executive session, 5-minute recess.
Counted me twice, right?
Moves, second. Ms. Harris, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.